Another month, another Versus Wolves.
Here we are. We've made it. And Woolie, you may notice I'm currently recording from a new location.
Where are you?
This, Woolie, is my new abode. I'm in a new house. I've spent the last month pretty much just moving here. And I got a question for you, Woolie.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's
I appreciate
great.
that. Yeah,
That's very cool.
It was moving's interesting, and this was certainly an interesting move. But okay, so the morning that you're leaving your old place, and you have all these big burly dudes coming over, who you have paid money to move all your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a part of you that wants to help them, or perhaps even does?
Every time I've ended up being a part of it too.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like, I know I am literally hiring help for this, and for the stuff that's most delicate and everything, they're taking care of it. But one, there's the part of me that goes, yeah, but if I help too, then it's going to go faster, and then we'll save some hours, and we can do this a little bit quicker, so I'm part of that chain. And then second, oh, I can lift a heavy thing too, you know, like I can do it.
Okay, I see we have philosophically opposed viewpoints on this, because let me tell you, Woolie, I lean back, I whip out a cigar, and I'm like, have at it, boys.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong. You are well entitled.
The thing is, like, I feel like I am going to slow them down. These are professionals. These know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how to hold everything. I don't believe that I can assist them in any meaningful way.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. You will absolutely slow down the chain if you're not keeping up with them, and you're not strapping things in properly and like getting it around the corners and just going. So what I do have though is like, I'll be able to take these things in like stacks of boxes down to like our car, where we're going to have a car drive over while the truck takes these other things, you know?
Sure.
And like, you know, there's a little bit of like, yeah, we're just... It's also, again, like, if we can get this whole process done faster, that matters more than like, you know, staying unsweaty.
I think what shocked me about the whole thing was like, these dudes came into my house or my apartment, and Woolie, they emptied the place out in like 30 minutes.
Well, yeah.
And I was like, there was literally a point where I was sitting on the couch smoking my cigar. I wasn't actually smoking a cigar, but I think it helps sell the metaphor here, Woolie.
Sure.
And I just glanced out into the hall, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, it was gone.
Did you help by pre-Tetrising all your boxes? Did they give you instructions for how to do that? Because like, that's a big part of it as well. I've moved myself, I've gotten help from friends, and I've done it with like, you know, companies, and putting everything right by the door, pre-Tetris, fold, like ready to flip out.
It was all like, that is Michelle's domain, and she will Michelle will organize everything to the most minute detail. She ensured that we had everything ready to go, and it was crazy because the movers saw it and they were like, "Oh, whoa. Sometimes we come and like they haven't started packing." And like, that's fucking bananas to me. It's like, so much so that they have a packing fee, so they will pack up all your shit. It's just gonna cost you.
Yep, and you're wasting precious daylight, you know. Absolutely. If like, that's it. If you don't want to be like running overtime, like hours of higher than you planned to, have them do things that you've already should have been doing. That's nuts. That's nuts. Like, hey, call them over, and like you're still Anyway, no, it's but they did a solid job. Everything was good.
I am still waiting to find like what went missing, because something did, right? Like, I have never not moved and not lost something. But so far, pretty solid. I'm in this big empty room, and it's kind of echoey, which will not be a thing for future podcasts, but we might have to put up with a little bit here. And yeah, the new place is awesome, honestly. I'm really happy here. The only thing that's like nagging at me a little bit is I have met the neighbors on one side, but not the other. And I'm kind of like, okay, how do we handle this?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Like, I know that in some neighborhoods, it's like, I think the population density determines whether or not you go knock on a door and be like, hello, you know, I baked a pie, or whether it's like, hey, what's up? I'll see you when I see you type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, feel it out. I remember doing that when I first got here. I was kind of just like, let's just feel out how people are and stuff like that. And sure enough, people who we saw more frequently, front or backyard, it was like, oh, hey, what's up? Eventually, you know?
Yeah.
And also, like, neighborhood cats and pets and stuff around are, like, a really quick, easy way to be like, oh, yo, hey, what's up?
Yeah,
That's
for sure. Because I ran into my neighbor just this week, and it was, like, I mean, it was good. It was, it was, I had just come back from a certain training exercise, fists still wrapped, extremely sweaty.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, hello. You know, like I think I was in like a tank top, so like the tattoos were out and everything, and this looked like a person who maybe tattoos just not their total jam, and it was like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. But he seemed cool, and then I met his wife later, and she seemed really nice. But then the other side, nothing from them for like the first week and a half. But then they drop a card through the letterbox, and I'm like, okay.
Oh. Okay.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's
now the ball is in our court, and it's stressing me out.
That's a very, you know, forward gesture of like, hey, what's up? Let's be friendly. That's great.
Yeah. I guess so. But would it have not been a little more forward if they just came to the door?
Okay. I'm going to put myself in the shoes of someone who's did that and think like, they're like, maybe we don't want to bother them. Maybe we'll just like not put too much pressure on it. Maybe, you know, if somebody is a bit more like, I don't want, if someone's a bit more reserved and pulled back, they'll be like, that's a bit too much. I was not expecting to see people. I'm caught off guard, or I'm working or something, you know? So the letter or the card is perhaps a little more like at your own time, at your own pace, you know? Giving them the option, kind of like sending a text versus calling somebody directly, you know?
Yeah, I see.
Because I feel like, you know, with some of the neighbors we've had here, some have been much more receptive and some a little bit less to the idea of like, hey, let's meet up or like, let's introduce, you know, ourselves. And for the ones who have been a little more like, yeah, that sounds good. And then, like, we follow up one more time, and if it's still a little like, we'll let you know when it's like, okay, then I'm not going to do a third, you know what I mean? It's like, two, and I got the vibe, you know? So, I definitely understand just being like, we don't know enough about this person to know if we're disturbing them, so let's ease it in with, you know, please reply to this text at your own convenience, and if you don't want to, that's fine too, you know?
Yeah.
I get it.
I did walk by my neighbors and I looked in the window and they were watching the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie. So I'm kind of like, okay.
Yeah, we got data.
All right. Yeah. I know no children live in that house. That's interesting.
Yes. Now, I don't recommend making a habit of walking through and looking at the windows to see.
Oh, really? Because I have a little notebook, and my tactic right now, Woolie, so I was going to go up to their house with the card that they sent, and I you know, ring the doorbell, they'd answer, and I just like, you sent the card. You were watching Sonic the Hedgehog 2 last Thursday?
Approximately 7:30 p.m.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've been kind of rehearsing this in the mirror a little bit. That's why it's coming across as so kind of smooth and practiced, because I have practiced it. So that's kind of the tactic. Just observe them as much as possible. Another one, the couple next door have a little dog. I was thinking of taking their dog for a couple of days until they get nervous and then act like I found it. I think that's probably a real good way to break the ice.
These are some solid suggestions we're throwing at the board right now. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely get in there and comment on their Wi-Fi name.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
One's big.
Yeah, totally. I think the most important thing to do is just to come across as normal as possible, and I put a
very
lot of
normal
energy
absolutely
into that. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, look, if you manage to get your stuff moved out and into place, and the movers did not drop and smash any of your equipment, that's a plus. For example, they did not drop and break your third strike cabinet, for example. That would be nice. That's a great thing. That's what happened to my third strike cabinet, was the movers dropped it and it fell on the stairs and completely was done.
No.
Mm-hmm. And there was a whole ordeal of me being like, okay, so I mean, I'm paid. Like, there was a whole, like, at the end, they're like, so sign here to say that you're happy with the service and that everything was okay. And I'm like, except for the part where it wasn't. And I went upstairs quickly and I tested it. And I'm like, no, that machine's broken. And like, there's a whole insurance thing to this that is a part of the service. So that's been paid for as well. So yeah, no, you broke my arcade. That's crazy. And the guy was like, yeah, okay, I'll be right back. And then walked away, forged my signature, got in the truck, and peeled off.
Okay, breaking a man's third strike cabinet is sin enough.
Yo. Forged my signature, got in the truck, and just, that was it, right? So yeah, court. You know, we're going to court, you know, and sure enough, of course, that process happened. Took a while, but you know, and the kind of
do you ever want to live in someone else's head and just experience the emotion? Because I would love to experience what he felt sitting there in fucking court and just being like, I probably shouldn't have forged.
I mean, that implies that the type of person that does this is even going to show up, right? You have to, like, something, it's a philosophy I've been kind of putting into play a lot, but like, when someone does a thing like that, you kind of go, that's the same person that's also going to try to find their way out of it, and that's the type of person that's going to make the subsequent decisions involved in this process. The first decision was to forge my signature after a clear fuck up and pretend nothing was wrong. So this person seems to think that that's adequate for getting out of trouble. What further getting out of trouble decisions are they going to make down this process?
And then retroactively you look at it and like, what decisions brought them to my door?
Oh, man.
Okay, yeah. I see. Was recompense ever received?
I mean, it took a minute, but like, yeah, because like after calling the company up and basically there was a solid like at least like 6 month almost process of like talking to this company and them giving the runaround to being like, oh yeah, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna send it up to this department, and it was just this lady that was just, she was literally like, okay, we're gonna need another week on this or that, and she bullshitted around for months, you know. And while that was happening, I'm like, I'm filing my thing, but it was a very clear, like, the last couple calls of like, hey, so when am I going to get that document? What's happening with this? There was a point where there was no more games to play, so she just starts screaming at me, you know? And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. Like, we've just cut the bullshit. We're not playing the runaround anymore. She's just telling me to fuck off and, like, losing her mind and going nuts. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we'll let the court sort this out then. To which it, you know, they like never showed up, of course, because like they were changing business names and like literally running from the law in other ways. So when the bailiff showed up to like collect the judgment, like they were like not there and they were moving the name around and he had to chase them across like different locations practically. It was crazy, you know? And I'm like,
wow.
And like, yeah, eventually seized and you know, I did get my recompense due, you know, which was nice. It took a look at like a year later. And if I could just put a little cherry on the end of that. Sorry to just hijack, but it was like
no. That's what this is all about.
A story came out a couple years later about this moving company, and they were in the news because they were in trouble from multiple families where they like would show up late and charge an extra starting fee. They would take people's stuff to the location and charge extra to unload it, and if they didn't, then they would keep their stuff and make them sign contracts for like extensions and extra payments that were not agreed to in advance. And in one case, when the family did not pay the extra random fee, they kept their stuff, including the a baby's formula, so they couldn't feed their baby, and so they took them to court. And it was this whole, and it was like, oh, these are absolute scumbag criminals.
Yeah. When you were telling that story, I was like, this doesn't sound like their first rodeo.
No. They were absolute garbage, you know. Yeah. And it turns out in retrospect, like, yeah, they got like obliterated and hunted down and destroyed because it was just like you're just a collection of like people licking the blood off of their knives, answering the phone, you know. So yeah, it was nuts. But I was like, oh, that makes sense. They would forge the signature. Perfect sense.
You ever wound up in front of a judge, Woolie?
Only in this case for this one where they didn't show up on the other end, and I was like, here's the video evidence, here's everything, and she's like, okay, well, judgment in your favor. See you later. That's the only time.
I've had my brushes with the law.
Well, look, I thought I knew who you were, but
well, I had just moved into my apartment, and this family's dog went missing, and they pretended I did it, and it was just, it was just a whole thing. That didn't happen. That was a callback to a joke from earlier.
Okay.
But no, I did actually one time. So there's the Lewis in Ireland, which is like our tram service. And one time I was going in, and on my when I reached the city center, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna need a ticket later to get back out, and it's gonna be really crowded. I'm just gonna get my ticket. Turns out those tickets have like a 90-minute time thing, and so on my way back out, I got caught by an inspector, and he was like, "This ticket's out of time," and I was out of time by I think 11 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, dude, come on," you know. And I was like 17 at the time, so I was still living with them, still living with my parents. And I told my dad the story, and he got like real mad, but like real mad on my behalf. He was like, "John, that's stupid. We're not paying that." And the fine was like $50. And in the beginning, I was like, yeah, stick it to the government. Yeah. And then the letters kept coming, and my dad was like, "We're not paying that." And then after a while, they started talking about court, and I was like, "Dad, I think maybe we should pay the government."
Oh, man.
And then, and he was just adamant. He was like, "John, we're right, and we're not paying this." And then I get the court summons.
Yeah.
And so I have to sit with my dad in court all day waiting for my case to come up. And dude, it was the most fascinating day I have ever had. Like, it's just, I saw every spectrum of life in court that day.
Oh my God.
And I remember one of them was, there was this guy, and he was there with two of his mates, and they were like yucking it up the entire court session. Like every other case, they were like, "Would you look at the fucking Stadia one?" And just like, and the judge several times had to be like, the judge several times had to be like, "Guys, could you be quiet? You're in a court of law." And they just didn't get it. And so then finally, that guy gets called up to the stand. And what he had done is he was on a train by himself, and he had reached out and pulled the emergency brake.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
And the judge just goes, "Why did you do that?"
Yeah.
And he just goes, so he's like facing away from me, and he kind of just goes, "'Cause I felt like it." And then he looks back at his mates and he goes,
like pub face, like yeah.
He's like, he's like, "I just got this judge who's about to hand me sentence down."
Oh my God, man!
The judge just fucking stone cold just goes, Well, Mr. Lynch, I can see you're not taking this seriously at all. So I'm going to issue you 6 months imprisonment. And the dude's just like, I just see that I'm sitting behind his mates and I just see him do this. And he just goes, he mouths to his friends.
Oh my God. Wow.
And then the judge just goes, suspended sentence for 2 years. So if he fucks up again, he's going to jail.
Okay.
But yeah, that was
crazy.
Quite a day. That was quite a day.
Okay, so I don't know how it works. I mean, I don't really know how it works over there, but overall, like there's things where you're like, yeah, you know what, fuck that, that's a stupid sentence. But then the idea that like you can challenge things, and then if you show up and they don't show up, then usually the challenge then defaults, in your favor. But a lot of the time, I forget the exact term, but there's a rule or a law of escalation of sorts where it's like every time you put a law in place, then you have to back that up somehow. And so if you're like, I'm not paying that stupid ticket, then it's like, well, they'll send more notices. And then if you're like, well, I'm ignoring those notices, it's like, well, there'll be an extra fee. And if you ignore that extra fee, at some point, someone has to kick your door down. And they're going to do that. And then if you're like, well, get out of here, then things can go crazy, right? Yep. And it all starts from one dumb little thing. So, and so like there's I know there's like a philosophical discussion to it about like, are you willing to like take a life over a parking ticket? Like what kind of society do you want to build and stuff? But knowing...
The conclusion to all this was that we ended up getting charged a €450 fine.
Yeah.
And me and my dad kind of step out pretty defeated, and we're in the elevator going down, and I just look at my dad and I just go, well, we fucking showed them.
It's the principle of the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But Law of Escalation could be an alternate title for this podcast. I'm Eyepatch Wolf.
I'm Woolie Versus. And we are...
Versus Wolf!
So, Woolie, look, I want to kick this podcast off with a declaration and not an apology. Is there something milder than an apology that we can use?
There's been a lot of declarations, but I'm game for another one.
Okay, look,
a tete-a-tete.
Yeah, okay. At that. Okay, so Woolie, look,
a parlay.
Perfect. Okay. I would like to declare that the friendship era is back on.
Yes!
Yeah. Woolie, it's a side of me that I work very hard so that you never see it. I can be a little emotional. And a little dramatic
Smidge.
sometimes.
Smidge.
I get a little hot. I get a little hot. And I think at the end of the last episode, I think with the nature of the recommendation, seeing that there was like an inherent cruelty in it, and like certainly not something I would ever do to you, but it was perhaps taken a little more emotionally than it should have been. And so I just wanted to declare, we're back in the friendship era. Long may it reign, probably forever is my guess.
1,000 years.
Yeah, easily. And I just want to put that right up front here.
Yeah, well, I see and I hear that, and I appreciate it.
I feel heard.
I really do appreciate it. And yes, sometimes you do get a little heated, right? But quite frankly, I just see that as part of your burning fighter spirit, and like that fighting spirit you have is perfect for the ring, So I think if anything, it just lends itself to the recommendation. Right, that is boxing, because it's like that is the embodiment of what you need to really get in there and push yourself past your limits and grow. So I'm glad that that you kind of felt that way, and that it kind of Yeah, it cooled down after a bit, and cooler heads prevailed.
Yeah, as always, Woolie, I'm always happy to be the bigger person in these scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy?
Yeah. No. Hey, that's what friendship is about.
Absolutely. And that's what the friendship era is about.
So I am, again, without further ado, allow me to reintroduce this podcast and reintroduce what this should have been from the jump, right? New beginnings, fresh starts, good vibes, good feelings.
Good vibes, positivity. Again, I think I gave this warning last month, but if you are here for the conflict, if you're here for the drama and the fighting, buddy, this ain't for you anymore. This I think you should find a different podcast.
Yeah, sometimes it's okay to grow past things, and I know that happens a lot on YouTube. This might be that time, quite frankly. And look, I think we should set a good example, really. I think about the type of example we want to set, as well. And like, do you really want to, be like taking shots and dodging bullets and like all that? Like, no, we can just show, for posterity's sake, like
it's what the podcast was always meant to be.
Yeah. I think it's
absolutely.
good. So, good. I wholeheartedly agree. And with that, how have you been, John? What have you been up to?
I've been doing pretty good, Woolie. I've been handling the move. I haven't had a huge amount of time for consuming a lot of media, but I did want to check in with you about something. Woolie, have you heard of the tale of WeebMD?
Weeb? As in Weeaboo MD? No, I do know me a WebMD, but this is new.
Okay, Woolie, I want you to picture a kind, sweet old man, okay? Someone who could, with a little extra chunk and a little extra beard, could play Santa Claus at Christmas. Just a mall Santa Claus. The good kind, not the scary kind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So there is this American man on TikTok who... his whole thing is that he basically, I think his daughter runs the TikTok and he reads manga. And he's like, I'd say in his 60s, maybe even 70s. And he just very earnestly engages with the material. He's like got a decent media literacy. He just gets really, really invested.
Okay.
And he recently started reading a series that is very close to both me, you, and this show. He started reading Berserk.
A little old man.
A little, gentle, kind-hearted, sweet old man.
And okay. And when you say reading, is he like story timing, like holding it up and going over it together?
No, he's giving his reactions to each chapter.
As piece by piece. Okay, got it. Okay.
And the end of the Black Knight arc, the very first arc, nearly broke this dude.
The Black Swordsman arc cracked him?
The Black Swordsman arc, yeah.
Oh my God.
He was like, it's just such a bleak world. There's so much darkness in it. I don't know if I can continue. I don't know if I can do this.
Oh my God.
And it's like,
what you got coming?
No. Oh yeah. And so there was a moment a couple of weeks ago that fucking killed me. He goes, well, I think I've reached the most tragic part of Berserk and I don't know if I can keep doing this. Casca fell off the cliff.
Oh no. Someone please. Someone get over there. Stat. Stop.
Dude,
stop him.
Again, this guy is not on TikTok. The account is run by his daughter.
Oh,
and
protect
what's
him.
happened is an entire community of people have been making these videos, like all these memes. So like one of them is that bit from Interstellar. Is it with Matthew McConaughey, where he's like looking through the blaze, like no, and then WeebMD is on the other side reading Berserk. And it's fucking crazy. Like, I think the eclipse is going to erase this man's soul.
I'm sure like Walter White in the car going no.
I've seen that, and then like, and you know, like right now he's at the point where Griffith is like in the bandages, we'll say.
Oh no.
And he's trying to figure out what has happened, and like he kind of was like, okay, here's what I think is going to happen next. And then he's like, well, look, okay, first of all, I think Guts and Casca are in love, and they're going to have to go away from this mercenary life together. And of course, they're going to have to take our friend Griffith. Our friend Griffith!
At this point.
Yeah,
man.
Just to even hear those words, it's like, oh no.
And he has to get through Wild and the chase.
So, Wild wasn't too bad for him. Because I think he can take extreme action. He can take, like, violence. But the real darkness of Berserk is what kills him.
I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, hey, guys, what should I read next? And then the internet was like,
Yep.
Oh, no. That's horrible.
Yeah, and the crazy part is because he is not the one running the TikTok, he has no idea what's coming.
Oh man. Okay. No, this is kind of like, oh god, I can't watch.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, and like it's been so crazy, and it's literally like watching someone like galloping off a cliff.
Yeah.
You know,
for audio listeners, I put my hand over my eyes and then split my fingers. You know, oh man, that's great and terrible. We haven't had
something.
This is prime rib. We have not had this in a long time. At least pure internet, man. That's nuts. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow.
It really feels like an event, you know, because like the kind of community that's building up around it. Like there's videos with like you know, screamo bands playing and people just screaming and just like that feeling when you cannot protect WeebMD.
Yeah. I mean, like, cause I'm like, wait, what did he get through before this? And if it's like Azumanga Daioh, you know, like, it's like, oh, like, what was the journey? Is there any part, you know, that, oh, that poor man, it's gonna annihilate him. Mm-hmm. The series might just come to an abrupt end, like, truly.
Yeah. At some point, he's just posted his last video.
And the grandkid is just, like, absolutely enabling this shit.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, has she read Berserk? Does she know what's coming? Because I know this isn't his first series.
Man. That's incredible. Wow. Yep. Okay.
It's,
countdown.
It sure is something.
Countdown to the moment.
So I guess in slightly Berserk related news, I decided to check out some Holyland.
Yeah. So how is that? Like, I'm curious. Mm-hmm.
You know what? I gotta say, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I think it's really, really cool so far. The whole story at Holyland is basically, it's about the era between you're a teenager, between being like a kid and being an adult, and how in a weird way the rules of society don't apply to you, and that's all told through this kind of shonen-esque street fight narrative. And so it's basically about this like pretty like bullied kid, and he just stays in his room and he has a boxing manual and he learns to jab. and he just learns to jab. That's all he does. He stays in his room all day and learns the jab.
That's super cool.
It's super, super cool. So basically, guys try and rob him, and he defends himself with his jab, and he becomes unintentionally the thug hunter.
Okay.
And I am seeing why people had like a really good feeling going into like with Koji Mori, because there is absolutely something to this series. Like it feels raw. I feel kind of excited to kind of sit down and read some every night. Like it's good. And like I hope I know we both came down hard on Berserk last time, but I hope that didn't translate into like any ill will towards Mori himself, because I think that's someone in an impossible situation, and I am seeing what's fucking cool about this guy through this series.
Yeah, I think the overall there was just like it's one of these. There was a plethora of different like takes and feelings about how Berserk is and how it's going, and people read things somewhat differently. In some cases, I think, I think there's almost like more I can elaborate on, where like, I think some of the way we discussed like things happening with like the characters that were whose freedoms were removed, like I think there was a thought that like we kind of misunderstood that, and I don't think we did. It's more just that we didn't enjoy that was the direction things were going. But
I think I think one of the things I kind of find frustrating about talking about media online is there's always this temptation to be like, no, it's not that you didn't like it, it's that you misounderstood it. And I think there's a place for that, but I don't think that can replace the feeling of not enjoying something.
Because I did kind of go like, I feel like I think like a lot of what we were talking about was misunderstood because folks are going like, no, you completely missed this. I'm like, I don't think I did. But regardless, what I am curious about is like, did you through this get a feel for like what kind of manga artist like and creator Mori is, and like what that like does it contextualize how things are and like what type of creator he is for you at all?
So what I'm reading right now, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I think it's his earlier series which he has completed and then done another series as well.
Right.
So I am really reading the early days of this guy, but that said, yeah, like he has it. Like he's a storyteller, and the way he like. So one of my favorite parts in it is basically a lot of this story, like it sounds super just shonen, but I think he does bring a flair to it, and he does bring it to this kind of place where it doesn't feel like that. Like it does feel kind of gritty and nasty. But basically, they get like a guy from judo to come after this kid, Okay. And it's this really introspective kind of fight of like what it is to box versus what it is to practice judo. And you can tell he's really thought about it. There's discussions about how judo is one of the most dangerous fighting styles in a street fight because concrete is a thing. Okay,
right. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this definitely sounds like a sophomore manga like story in a way, where just like a kind of unassuming kid like learns a skill and enters a new world in this way. I wonder if like the second work, Suicide Island, gives a bit more of a like, oh, maybe we can see where the Berserk part, some of those themes might come in a bit later, and I'm sure as well, like the earliest works of any mangaka are gonna be like, you're gonna see them evolve over time with it. So but at the very least, it's interesting that you like pick that up in light of this month's recommendation and the recent talk about Berserk we've been having. That's a pretty apt thing to check out.
Yeah, I wish I could say I thought about it that thoroughly, but unfortunately I was just like, check this out. But it's cool. It is genuinely really good, and I'm really looking forward to reading more.
Awesome. I mean, like literally, like there are professionals who will tell you that, like, yeah, you learn to jab and you build your entire foundation. Your house is all built around that, you know? You can go really, really far just on that, you know?
Perhaps we will get into that a little later in the podcast. How you doing, Woolie?
I'm good. I had, like not a ton for me to get into this time. It's been pretty busy overall with some life stuff, but on my end, I've been kind of diving back into some classics, and that's what I usually do over on Woolie Versus. And something I started recently is Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney.
Oh, okay.
Never went through it.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I think at some point, I think just because I know your sensibilities, and I'm a big fan of, I wouldn't say big fan. I really love the first Phoenix Wright trilogy. Yeah. There is a lot of crossover there. How are you finding it?
I'm loving it. I'm someone that I've played like Danganronpa, you know, and I enjoy the whole visual novel, like courtroom kind of prosecution and defense sort of setup in a way. So that's always been fun, finding logic traps and arguing, you know, your way through them. In this case, it's particularly just hilarious because, you know, besides like all the memes and the history and stuff, just kind of seeing this game as like, oh, this is absolutely taking the Japanese legal system to task is what this is, you know? And the fact that like, yeah, there's no time for any like prolonged justice. So we got to rush and have these turnaround cases in 3 days or less. And like, there's no jury. We just get right to it. We're speeding up the whole process. And the conviction rates in Japan, as we know, are like 99.9%.
Sky high.
Right. So this is just all about that, you know? It's quite interesting to sort of see that as the backdrop for the whole thing. And you know, it is of course satisfying and hilarious to like make people sweat and like kind of stick it to them on the stand and catch them in their lies, and you know,
I think
it's
interesting that like Phoenix Wright is like you know, quite a lighthearted kind of sweet series. It's also a game about mentally unraveling people.
Yeah. And murders and horrible people, you know? And there's this aspect to it as well where it's just like it's the like you're going to sit there and watch as like the person on the stand lies and perjures themselves like 3, 4, 5 times in a row, and the judge is like, "It's okay, go ahead. You can try again." You know, but for you it's like life or death. You know, yeah. And like in order for like to not have an innocent person just rot forever, or who knows what the punishment, you know, like it's so stacked and unfair, you know, which is, hey, look, it's the legal system. How about that? Right? You know, and so right now I'm in the middle of the third case, which is the Steel Samurai, and it's so funny because like, you know, you have your first case in this game where the first thing you do in Phoenix Wright is you defend you know, your client, which is your friend, against this like just common criminal going house to house, like, you know, stealing people's stuff, and then just murderer of opportunity, you know, of just like I want to get away with, almost got caught, so I can't leave any witnesses type of thing. And you're just like, right, that's a pretty scummy person, you know, that deserves to pay for their crimes. And then your second case is this like big CEO man that is above the law, that is just influential in society and has, you know, a black book of names that can be associated, like all
that is still one of my favorite cases. The moment he punches Phoenix Wright.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this is again another level of criminal with the straight up impunity of like, what are you gonna do about it? I have this world by the palm of my hand, and you're like, ooh, you want to see him go down, you know? So that's a really nice setup of like, okay, now you get this guy, right? Stop him, and his Lolita Express from ever taking off ever again. Shut him down, you know? And then you do, and then it's like, all right, you know, we're this game is setting up the villains that need to be put in their place, right? We're knocking them down. We got these like scumbag murderers, and we got these people that can buy their way through society that think they're above it all, and we're putting them in their place. Who's next? And it's like, I'm not done the case yet, but it feels as if things are leaning towards, you know who's next? That old battle axe of a lady down the road that's talking shit and messing up everybody's lives. That old hen.
Miss Oldbag.
Miss Oldbag. That old cackling hen is just clucking, and she's like an awful mother-in-law, and she's turning the neighborhood against you, and she's lying, and she's telling everybody that you're not good enough, and she needs to be put in her place, goddammit. And that's third on the list of people that need to get it, according to the Ace Attorney series.
Yeah, no, I loved my time with a lot of those games. Okay, how do you find, like, in terms of following the path of logic those games set out before you? Because sometimes I do get a bit lost and I get a bit frustrated.
Oh, yeah. I knew in advance that I would be confronted with bullshit. So I'm ready for the game to just lie, cheat, and steal. I know that there are these, like, I've already had the moment of, like, there is no answer. There's no weakness in his testimony. You have to just loop it again to find something. And so it'll be like, press everything. You don't know. And the game will be like, yeah, bluff, you know? So just looking for the crack. Sometimes there are no cracks, you know, and the game is going to just be like, yeah, I don't know, do something. No, it's a weird way to go. I'd always prefer that you could detective your way through things.
Yes.
But it would be better if they didn't just have it be like, there's zero information for you here. But I will say, at the very least, they managed to do one of those moments, at least elegantly, when you are nailing the CEO, when he has his revised testimony and you can't find a single weakness in it, you read through it like 2 or 3 times, and then the game eventually goes, yo, I don't know what to do. And then they're like, yeah, I don't know. And then it like gives you like a bit of a like, oh shit, you're stuck, and then forces it forward, you know?
Yeah, sometimes those are great, and then sometimes I found them like a little too vague. But so I found myself a lot in those cases. Like, the feeling of cracking them yourself is so satisfying, but then sometimes when you're hammering on icons, that gets kind of frustrating.
I for sure.
But I think the thing about those games is, while I don't think they're like perfect experiences, the writing is great. It looks incredible. Some of my favorite pixel art ever.
Yeah.
But also that soundtrack.
Oh man, the turnabout theme. Yeah. So I mean, ever since like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where Phoenix Wright was playable, it was always just this like, even if he's hard to use, the fun of landing the investigation into the courtroom mode and then objection, bam, and then the theme kicks in, and I'm like, oh, that's so that's fire, you know. So in the actual game, when you have those moments where like the objection kicks in, everything goes silent and it pops off, like it's just a hype machine, you know. They do great with that. And like, so I'm playing the PC remaster, so like the art is like all like redrawn as well, but it looks pretty good. And
it looks good. I don't think I could ever play those games without the pixels, because that's just so part of their identity to me. I don't think someone who hasn't played it is going to have that attachment. So like, whatever. But yeah.
But something that I've been discussing a lot recently with old game design is like, when there is a moment where you want the player to feel confused or helpless, it's very, very razor thin. You have to be so careful how to make it feel like confused and helpless, but not frustrated because the mechanics of the game are failing you, right?
Yes. And I what I'm talking about with hammering on icons, that is when I cross over to frustrated.
Yes, I know what you mean. Pressing everything, sometimes it does feel like, I'll have to see where it goes. I'm only 3 cases in, right?
Sure.
But the example I've been giving people, because I ran into this issue recently with, I just played through a Dino Crisis. And
I have never played through it, and I've always wanted to, because it's adjacent to so much stuff I love.
Mm-hmm. It's a great game, but it had some of the issues I'm about to mention as well, where you want the player to feel kind of frustrated and helpless and confused, but like in sometimes you can do that by indicating like some idea that, hey, things are out of your control right now, right? And I think as long as a game somehow subtly implies that things are out of your control, you don't end up getting just like, what am I supposed to do? The things that you've taught me don't work now, right? And you know, you want to subtly nudge in that direction. And so the kind of example I give is the Walking Dead season 2 is the moment that I got so frustrated with that series that I stopped. Because there's a moment in one episode where you have to escape from a zombie horde attacking you, and then they rush the screen, but you have not enough bullets. So you have like 2 or 3 bullets in your gun, and there's like 10 zombies or so. And so I would so you shoot at the zombies, and then you run out of bullets, and then I was like, oh, I'm out. And then I was like, okay, what now? And then nothing happened, and then they just killed me. They just rushed the screen and you die. And so I replayed it, and I was like, hold on, what's going on? I'm like, did I miss an explosion? Did I have to shoot a red barrel? Did I miss some ammo? And it was like, no, there's no ammo, there's no barrel. Do I have to do something or nothing at all? You just run out of bullets, and then they rush you and you die. And it happened multiple times, and it turns out the game wants you to run out of bullets and then panic fire and dry fire the gun and click, 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 click. And after your 3rd or 4th empty click, then someone comes in and saves you, and then the scene gets updated. And I'm like, because I looked at my gun, and saw that I had no bullets.
Driving the player to a state of panic was a goal there, and then something didn't work out, and something didn't work out, and this is the compromise, and the compromise, it's like there's a bridge of logic missing there.
Absolutely fails to accomplish what it set out to do, because I'm like, I saw that I had no bullets, I knew that it didn't work, right? Even firing once, and I was like, okay, well, now what? And I'm looking for solutions, and there are none. So the idea that you're like, no, you're supposed to be so scared that you keep clicking, and we're going to make it so that the only win condition is that you do that, just doesn't take into account somebody who would be like, I'm out of bullets, now what? You know? It was a terrible decision, one of the worst, and it put me off. Like, I'm like, it upset me so deeply, you know? Moments like that, you know, whenever the rules change. Like, there's a little moment in Mass Effect 2 where the only way forward is to shoot a window at one point, and it's like, there's nowhere else in the game where shooting windows is a thing. All glass is never a thing, but here suddenly you do, you know, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
You have to be so careful about that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
But
that's awesome. Like, I'm glad to hear you are having fun with those games.
It's great, and it's a little tiring because it has so much voice acting to do, and me and Reggie are talking and taking on the roles, and we're reading out all the lines.
So I remember the first stream I ever did was Deltarune, and I couldn't believe how tired I was by the end.
Yeah. I got some practice. I did Deltarune, you know. There were things I couldn't do, like you know, I wanted to do Disco Elysium for such a long time, and then I was like, there's just too much here, and then thankfully the update came out with the voice acting in it, you know. But for Phoenix Wright, I checked, and yeah, there are over 200,000 words in this, so I just need to be well rested and have my chamomile tea, you know. But I think we're gonna be able to get through it. But it's gonna be a journey.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. And what I will say is that the Great Ace Attorney game, which is the one set in the past, the first one of those games, to me, there is an argument to be made that it is the best Ace Attorney game overall. I can think of other games that I think had like stronger cases, but the consistency, the art direction, the humor of that game, fantastic. Didn't like the second one as much, went on a bit long for me, but the first one I absolutely adored.
I've heard it's almost like Persona in a way, where I've heard people praise different elements of each series. And I've heard that 1 to 3 are just a solid trilogy all together in totality. And I've heard that the Greatest Ace Attorney, the final boss, is the one that's the big payoff in that series.
I would not agree.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
So I would say it was one of those things where the final boss came on screen and I was like, oh, there's the final boss because they have a final boss design. And then 60 hours later, it was me! And it's like, yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
But I also think I'm in the minority there. Like, so many people were so excited for me to play that game. And then I kind of came out of it being like, that was long, you know? But I still think those games are super, super worth getting into. Real quick, Woolie, did you have a chance to check out UFO 50?
No.
Have you heard of this?
No.
UFO 50 is by the guy who did Spelunky.
Oh, okay.
And what he has done, and I don't know his involvement on each one, but he has released a game called UFO 50, and what it is, it's a 50-in-1 cartridge for a console that doesn't exist.
God damn it. This was a game idea me and some friends had a long time ago.
Oh, no way.
It was never gonna happen, so it's fine. That's awesome. Yes, when I was a kid, I had the 256-in-1 cartridge, you know, like a lot of us did, and man, I went, how cool would it be to make a 201 type game, but there's actually a thing going on that it's like, okay, this is completely that. That's great. That's really cool.
So every game is presented. So basically, you tab through the menu and then you're presented with an opening screen, and it's just 50 tiles, and each tile is a little character from one of the games. And the first one is the first game ever released for this console, and there's a little blurb. And then the 50th one is the last one ever released. And you can actually see the technology, not the technology advance, you can see the developers learn to use the game better. And some games have are sequels to previous games.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's really cool, but the really fucked up thing? These games are legit. They're not junk. They're actually fun games. Mm-hmm. I have spent 7 hours with one. I think it's called Rock City, and it's basically a tower defense game where you play as a caveman trying to defend your cave from dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs go along a little path. You drop your stone throwing caveman, your fire caveman, your wheel throwing caveman. If I paid $10 for this one game, I would be satisfied. I cannot stop playing it. The design is so clean. It's so addictive. Another one is this platformer where it's a platformer. Imagine Mario, but every time Mario uses a special power, he dies. Okay. But his corpse is left in the game, and that becomes a platform you can jump on.
Oh, that's great. It's morose.
So good. Or maybe it's not even a corpse. Maybe you just blow yourself up and it blows open a cave. So you have to spend lives to make progress. That's how effectively you can spend those lives, and it's cool. Another game, I haven't dived into everything. Another one is a very light Smash Another one is a visual novel. Apparently there's a 20-hour RPG in there. I don't understand the logistics of how this thing exists, but Woolie, it's fucking cool. It's rad.
This is hitting me in the soul, because I said, when I say this was a project, I'm not kidding. It had legs. To be perfectly honest, I'll just say, there was a time when this, multiple cartridge in one kind of design was a hypothetical super best friends game that we were working on.
No way.
And pitched it to developers and sat and talked to people about it. And there was actual things happening that sound a lot like what you're describing. So I'm kind of
Derek Yu, because I think you got a lawsuit on your hands.
No, it wasn't. No, but it was.
You hear that, you? We're coming for you. I can't remember if that's even his name.
It was not the Spelunky creator, but this idea was such a cool one, and you're like all these types of things, and like how they relate to each other, and the overall how these pieces to connect and what you reveal. Like it was all it's such a fun idea. This could be a Woolie would figure it out. You know what I mean? This could there's a whole thing here to this, but whenever there's an idea that you know is never going to happen, you're never going to do it, but you see it exist out there. There's just that like I'm happy. But you know, and what you're describing sounds awesome. So it's even more.
It's fucking cool.
Incredible.
For some reason, it strikes me as a really great like Halloween or not Halloween game, holiday game. Okay. Probably because it was on holiday, you'd see those 50-in-1 cartridges.
We just had one. Like a cousin got it and brought it home. You know, and like 50 of the 250 games were the same game, just slightly different and terrible. You know, so yeah, that's a great one.
This like what a lot of these games, like, you know, they look very simple, but a lot of them like feel good. You know, it's like, this is a nice jump. The steering on this car is good. Like these menus work well. You know,
that's the fun of like neo retro, and like they talked about this with the development of Shovel Knight. But like when a game looks and feels old, you can still use modern lessons to make it really good, and you can do things that are kind of cheating a little bit. You know, especially if it's a console that never existed. I'm sure you're not tethered to any hard rules that you can't define on your own. But
everything like this console has like the loose power of a Nintendo, except everything runs at a good frame rate and sprites can overlap.
There you go. Yeah. But there's times where you deliberately want some slowdown, you know? Like I've often described, I'm like, if I'm playing Mega Man X and you're going down the rail cart in Armored Armadillo stage and you don't have the whole world slow down as you X bust through the bats, I don't want to play the game. Like slowdown in Mega Man X makes the game better.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. I would like to have played more UFO 50, but even then I have no trouble being like, I recommend this game. This game's fucking cool.
Right on.
But another game that's also been sapping my time. Sorry, do you want to say something?
Oh, I was going to ask you about one myself, actually. I just quickly took a look at it, but have you checked out Astrobot?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
It's a little outside my wheelhouse. I am curious.
Do you have any love for the Banjo-Kazooie's, Mario Galaxies? Like,
you know, I used to love them when I was younger, and I just I played a little bit of Astro's Playroom, and I thought the game was cool, but it just didn't do a whole lot for me. It's like, okay, I don't know if I need to collect stuff, you know.
Okay, fair enough. I think Astro's Playroom and PSVR was the best part of that collection. Because the reason, like, it felt so cool to have like a 3D platformer in like a classic, you know, like those games I mentioned, like an old Mario game or so. But you are the camera looking down at a like sandbox of a level.
Okay, what was the pack in with PS5?
Okay, hold on. I think there was an Astro's game packed in.
There's Rescue Mission and Playroom.
I'm talking about the PSVR game.
Okay, cool.
Did you play that one?
No, I was talking about the pack-in.
Okay. I'm not sure. I didn't play that one, so I'm not sure how that went. But the Astrobot game in the VR was basically imagine looking at a world of Mario, you know, 3D Land or Mario 64 or so, but like the whole map is in front of you on the in your lap. And in VR, you're controlling the platforming character, jumping off the walls, grabbing enemies, grabbing coins, and moving through it. But it's all it's like a sandbox in front of you instead of like moving a camera through a world. And just that perspective made it feel a lot like you're playing with your toys and kind of having fun, you know?
Yeah, That sounds kind of magical.
It was really great, and so I was very impressed with that. So I was like, yeah, let's see how this does for the new game. And the new game is just, it's pure fun, simple platforming video games. It's no frills, just fun boss fights, great power-ups, lots of cameo characters from, hey, look, it's Ryu and Bloodborne and, like all these different characters.
I have seen some of the like little animations, and they have kind of melted my heart.
Yeah.
Like, especially, it was specifically some of the Resident Evil ones where I was like, oh my god, look at tiny Chris Redfield.
So, Lady Maria in Bloodborne?
She is not in it, is she?
She's not only there, she's sitting in her little chair, and every once in a while, she falls asleep, and then goes, oh, and then wakes up, because she's sitting in the pose.
That is,
and so she's like, she's being so chill in the chair, and she occasionally dozes off and then goes,
That's awesome, dude.
It's joy. It's just joy. It's and there's a really great, just like a boss fight with an octopus with boxing gloves. It's just a lot of fun.
I might check that out.
Tap into something inside that is young and innocent and just likes to see.
I will try and refine the joy in my heart.
Yeah.
That journey will look not unlike a certain, we'll say, very surreal couple of chapters in Berserk.
Okay. All right. Just if you see an inanimate object with eyes on it bouncing to the music, just go with the vibes,
Okay.
Check it out.
Speaking of going with vibes, I have been going with the Darkest Dungeon 2 vibes. The madness continues.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So,
any improvements? Yeah, let me know. How's it going?
I have not beaten the second boss.
Okay.
I have come so close.
You reached it.
Oh, I reached it. I had reached it by the time we did the podcast, but looking back, I think I kind of fluked my way through that second boss to the second boss the first time.
Okay.
Now I can do it consistently.
Okay.
And the big switch over for me was actually something we directly talked about on the last podcast. It was managing stress and relationships.
Yes.
Woolie, turns out life is way easier when you manage stress and relationships.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so my lineup has stayed the same except for one. My lineup is now Plague Doctor.
Paracelsus.
She's back row. Then Vestiel. The armor lady with the torch.
Yes, the Vestal, yeah.
Vestal, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then Leper,
yes.
And then Highwayman.
Okay, Leper is so good.
So I used Leper first, and I was like, wait a minute. This dude has a 50% chance of going blind whenever he attacks.
Every time.
Completely unusable. Get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there is a target on one of the enemies. And target is a special status effect in Darkest Dungeon that you can put on enemies in certain circumstance. And so then I learned my opening gambit. Highwayman has a move called Point Blank, which does a lot of damage, puts him back, puts Leper forward, and puts a target on the first person. So point blank shot, Leper attack. Oh, it is it's
and
so good.
Annihilated, and you rip it back, and it's like that Leper has when he goes blind, there's a 50-50 shot, his attack will miss. But when he hits, there's a 50-50 shot, it'll do 200% damage.
Yeah, so he is fucking insane. And then you start thinking about, then you get a milk soaked cloth. You equip it to the Leper whenever he goes to blind. Just dab those eyes.
Dab the eyes.
Boom.
Yes.
And I completely understand your love of that game. I'm disappointed because I wanted to come into this podcast telling you I'd beaten the second boss. I came so close. And the thing is, it is a 2-hour run to that boss.
And make no mistake, that boss, the Seething Sigh, is a nightmare. It's
a
very hard.
Fucker. And I realized my mistake in fighting it. I was trying to take out its wings. I now realize the key is to, well, I don't want to say because maybe people want to figure it out themselves, is to not do that and to do something more specific.
Yeah, so a lot of the bosses, again, the bosses are challenges and puzzles as much as they are fights. And learning which rows to attack when is crucial, and how to defend against stuff, and how to know when you cannot defend and just mitigate the losses, you know? Yeah. But yeah, little strategies like what you're describing, learning about the leper, stuff like that applies to every class in this game, where it's like, this seems to be confusing and weird and a huge disadvantage. But when you get them going and you figure out what their thing is, you can have great synergy moments like that. Did you have any relationships that formed that were meaningful?
Oh, yeah, all over the place. Since our discussion where you told me that like you really want to be managing that stuff, every inn I hit, I'm buying whiskey for everyone. We're playing cards. I'm exclusively getting the little wolf companion that raises your chance of positive relationships.
Hell yeah.
Because when you roll right and you get that shit going, oh my god, it's like you're attacking one character, it's automatically buffing another character. It's crazy. And I think the only reason that I didn't beat the Shivering Sigh, is that what it's called?
The Seething Sigh.
The Seething Sigh. I had a bad run of luck on relationships, and it just didn't work out. But I think, because I got him down to like a quarter health, and I think with a little more work, I could have done it.
Okay. But just when you have 3 members where you're like, 2 members of your party are amorous, 2 members are loyal, and 2 are like respected with each other, you're just like, one's taking the hit, the other one's finishing it off, you know?
Yes. And like
someone's about to get damaged and the other one pulls them back, you know?
Yeah, it's getting to the point where like I am stomping those area bosses.
Nice.
Which I did not well, like, you know, I think those fights are still dangerous enough that shit can go sideways, but it's fun, dude. Like it's a fantastic game.
I'm so glad that clicked. Hell yeah. And yeah, so there's a lot, you know, and I really will say that like as you get further in and you get better at these things, they increase the challenge accordingly, you know. And you know, so you and then of course you've got the story reveals, right? By any chance did you do the leper's backstory at all?
Yes.
Oh, how good is that?
So good, so good, so sad. Like, okay, god damn.
So I like, just to explain to people. So we've described this last episode, but Darkest Dungeon 2 is a game where you have like 4 party members on one side, 4 enemies on the other side of the screen, turn based, and you're managing. It's RPG-esque. You're doing your damage, but there's a lot of status ailments and things like that. When you learn about character backstories, instead of a fight, it becomes like a narrative version of these battles. And the leper, like the first one you get introduced to is that the leper is a king who is benevolent to his people, but the wise men and the rich men around him are like trying to control him, and they don't like that he's so concerned with like the poor and the sick and the needy. And so your game mission is you see beggars and people that are sick and needy and dying on the street, and you have to approach them, but your courtsmen and your wise men and your surrounding rich men are like trying to keep you away from them, and you have to move up the ranks to give them hugs and to embrace them and to take care of them, and they're trying to pull you away. So you have, you know, and that becomes the fight becomes approach and embrace them and help them, and once you do, each of the sick and needy eventually go away, and that's how they're defeated, quote unquote.
But then the name of this character is the leper. And so you can, from that one encounter, you can put together what is going on, and it fucking rules. Yeah, it's a fantastic game. It's really, really good. I think that this is going to be a chill out back burner game for me a long time, because it's also one of those games I will just keep playing it, and I gotta play other shit too, you know?
For sure.
But
did you set it up so that you can just click with the mouse and then steer the cart easy? Because I
play it all on Steam Deck.
Oh, okay, you're good to go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you just want to, again, minimize all that cart. Just click it once and let it go to the destination and just focus on stress, you know? And, yeah, man, I'm glad that clicked. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Awesome.
Yeah. And in another recommendation update, Woolie, I have a Kathy update.
Kathy update.
So look, last we left Dokujan Kingdom, I had laid out a challenge.
Boy,
I had about
ever.
maybe 6 turns from the end of the game, and I had 3 chances to turn it around.
You know, I've seen some describe it as a stick in your own bicycle tire. I've seen some describe it as Eric Andre pointing back to shoot Hannibal and ask who shot Hannibal.
You know, Woolie, I don't really engage in a lot of the negativity in our community.
Yeah,
I think those are
those are
hurtful.
memes that popped up.
They're, you know, but like, I mean, realistically, I think when you take a cross section of our audience, it's like 1% of people making those memes, 99% of people being like, "Well, John's so brave, John's so cool."
I mean, make no mistake, when I saw those memes, I did nod my head disapprovingly, you know? Yeah. As I scrolled past them, I just kind of went...
This is, you know, okay.
Terrible.
You know, I was wondering how to kind of bring this up on the podcast, but I got a lot of fan art of being choked out by a little girl. Woolie, please don't laugh.
There was so much!
Woolie, I feel like you're making light of the situation.
There was a lot. There was a lot of it.
Okay.
You
so
are correct.
What I will say is that me and Woolie had a conversation before the podcast, and Woolie is... It's okay, Woolie, you don't have to say it, and I'll say it. Woolie is very upset at the way I am being treated in this community. And...
Excuse me. Water went down the wrong pipe. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
That's okay. And, you know, while I've always had a very benevolent approach to our audience, you know, I get, you know, there's a lot of fan art of me being, you know, made seem foolish in some occasions. And, you know, Woolie is just heartbroken about this. As I said, I think I said this you know, no fan art of saving the old man. Nothing like that. And Woolie's just really upset about the way the direction this community has gone.
Right, because the true heroic moments, saving the old, that's what deserves the fan art, truly.
Well, that's why people like me, Woolie. I'm heroic.
I mean, I can already see the halo, the light from behind the head as you hoist up the figure and, you know, in classic neoclassic, you know, almost get some chiaroscuro in the background, you know, with the with the Blink 182 concert in the distance.
yeah. What's that famous sculptor of Mary holding Jesus?
I mean, you can, you know, there's...
Well, look, I'm not going to say it was like that.
Okay.
I'm also not going to say it was unlike that.
Uh-huh. Yes, it truly was an accidental Renaissance moment. You know, well, hey, look, I think the artists, it's just slight oversight.
You know, it's been a lot of people making fun of me over the Dokapon stuff as well.
Slight oversight, and, you know, some people.
Yeah, and just, you know, Woolie, you know, you haven't out and out said it, but I can see that it really bothers you when people ridicule me with such depictions.
Yep.
So on your behalf. Yep. I wanted to warn our audience against continuing to do that.
Yeah.
Because there really has been just a lot of fan art, you know?
Really detailed, highly detailed, sometimes pages in sequence.
Sometimes entire comics. And, you know, keep the fan art coming, but I think we have a lot of incredibly talented fan artists in the community, but I'm going to say it.
Just course correct a little bit.
I think the subject matter could be improved a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
just a little course correction.
I feel like we finally got people off the stripper story, and now it's a whole other thing, you know? But, you know, whatever. Anyway, Kathy update. So... I start, Attempt number 1. I fight my hardest. I try everything I can. So my tactic, Woolie, is I need to get to the other side of the map, become the Darkling, and come to me, pull Gabrielle out of the last boss fight. Kathy's not even the one in the last boss fight.
Okay, so I was going to say, like, what is even your job at this point? But it doesn't matter. You just have to get over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the tension of every turn, praying. The way the Darkling works is that every turn you're assigned a certain number of dark points. Mm-hmm. And if you get like 100, you could fuck up that game. If you get 5, you can't do anything. And so every turn I am praying for enough.
It's like a second dice roll. Yeah.
Yeah. And Woolie, the future refused to change. The game ends the exact same way. Turn number 1 down. Attempt number 2. Attempt number 2 goes very similarly. I am rolling so bad so what's happening is far, far away from me, this NPC Gabrielle is battling the last boss. I have to find a way to get to like affect that fight, because otherwise the game's just going to end.
And you've seen this before. You know how it goes.
Twice now. And I am rolling like absolute shit. I need 100 dark points to activate a come to me, which brings everyone to me. And my only shot is a sleepy time, which would put all my opponents to sleep, including Gabrielle.
Mm-hmm. Unless your speed was fast enough.
Hers wasn't.
Okay.
So she falls asleep. She misses a turn against the last boss, and they're in this weird cycle of like healing and hitting and healing and hitting. So she loses a turn in that. And I can't remember specifically, but basically I think she either gets defeated or gives up.
Oh.
But she's still in the last... No, she doesn't get defeated. I think she gives up or something happens that stops the fight.
Stays in the area.
Now, she's still in that little area. She's going to fight him again, and like she's strong enough to beat him. Like, if she has full health, she can beat him. And I'm like, every turn, I'm like, please give me something. Give me something. 5 days left of Darklingdom. 3 days left. 2 days left. And you can go and watch the footage, and I'm like, it's over. It's fucking over. 50 Darkling points. Come to me.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And Woolie, the future was forced to change.
The third run back. Okay.
So I do it. I immediately draw all the NPCs to me. I immediately murder Steve. Just pick him up in front of the other two. Toss his fucking corpse to the side. I look at Kathy and I go, you. We scramble. She gets away from me. She gives up, but you know, like giving up isn't really a proper loss.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's just me and Gabrielle. Gabrielle, the one who cost me everything. Gabrielle, the one who threw away my weapon. I take her skull. I fucking crush it. I take her weapon. It's called like the Sword of Nihilism. It's one of the best weapons in the game, apparently. And I throw it into the void. You won't be needing this anymore, because this is not where the game ends. Everything is returned to 0. So now, then Darklingdom ends. I get the fuck out of there because I still don't have a weapon and I don't want Kathy to murder me.
Right.
And so now I need to find a weapon. I need to find a way to take Kathy's gold away from her. I have entered the Bite the Dust arc of Dokujan Kingdom.
One more day.
Yep.
One more chance. Okay.
In fact, there's just one little bit of fan art that I just got to dig out for you here.
Oh man, forcing the timeline.
Everyone called me insane, Woolie. Everyone said I was a lunatic. Everyone was like, the moves are predetermined. You're not actually going to be able to change anything. Fuck you.
I mean, the determination at the, more than anything. All right, what do we got here? Oh, bites Zadasto.
I will continue to update, but the Dokapon playthrough has been just insane. It's been the craziest thing I think I've ever it's definitely like the most insane playthrough I've ever done on Twitch. Like it is wild.
I'm constant. These twists and turns are so nuts compared to wherever this was supposed to go. And I say it every time, but this just went so far above and beyond the intended destination for it. And hey, I'm honored to contribute so much to the Final Gamer lore, to just this entire arc and this entire this struggle, this top to bottom, and now even the
look, it's been kind of hell. It's been so much stress, so much balls exposed on stream moments, but it's been awesome as well, and it's made me realize, man, this is a special playthrough. This has been really cool. And when it's over, it's over.
I can see the hesitation. Yeah, I can see
and
that.
I do.
We don't want to let it go just yet.
I don't.
I know, I can tell.
Even fucking Steve is getting fan art, and people are imposing a personality on fucking he's this dumbass himbo who never does anything right, and people are having fun with that now. Send your fan art to regular eyepatchwolf@gmail.com. And it's been awesome, and I am genuinely feeling like I showed you. Did I show you the JoJo picture of someone did the Last Train Home fan art?
Oh, I don't think so, but man, there's so much. It's incredible.
Yeah. At some point I want to do a gallery of everything, and I'll
have to.
Dude, it's been incredible. But legitimately, when that playthrough finally ends and Kathy and Gabrielle and Steve disappear into the void, never to return, I'm going to say my heart's going to be a little heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gone so much better than expected. That's it. That's all I've got,
I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm fucking stunned as to what it's turned into, and just how people have reacted. It's more fan art than I've ever gotten for anything by an increment of about 10.
Yeah. I mean, you showed me I saw some of those detailed manga pages,
Mm-hmm.
of just you crawling with the bloodied character and Kathy just staring in surprise and indignation.
I think for the best of, and I kind of want this to be the mother of all best ofs, I think I'm going to get those bits voice acted.
Okay. Yeah. There's so much here. It's incredible. Good
It's
stuff.
Been fascinating. Yeah.
Dokujan Kingdom.
And with that, Woolie, I think it's time to get into
our sponsors.
Some sponsorships. I caught it at the last second. Oh man, if you are listening to the audio section of this podcast, you are missing out, buddy. You just missed some jigging.
Yep. Do a little 1-2, little soft shoe. All right. Yes, indeed. Quick word from our sponsors over here. This episode of Versus Wolves is brought to you by EXPRESSVPN. I have talked many a time about EXPRESSVPN. The service is simple in that it protects you and your data on the internet and allows you to watch cool stuff and play cool stuff. But, by there's a couple of suggestions here of like scenarios, hypotheticals. Going online without EXPRESSVPN is like leaving your kids with the nearest stranger while you go to the bathroom. They're probably not a kidnapper or serial killer, but why would you ever take that risk? That is a wild scenario.
That's, I'm going to say that's a little...
That's a bit nuts to put out there. I mean, Jesus. I don't know why. We're putting that energy out there into the world. That's, but rest assured, I suppose, that no, it is in fact like what if you're connecting to a hotel, cafe, or McDonald's Wi-Fi or so, then yeah, your data is not secure and it's super sketchy, and you can in fact get your passwords and everything stolen by a 12-year-old with some cheap hardware.
Let me tell you, as someone who was recently selling crypto on their Twitter mysteriously, I recommend EXPRESSVPN. I would say lock down those internet connections, because even having two-factor authentication activated does not work. Would we maybe say that Elon and the crew should get it together a little bit? Yes, but you want to be doing everything you can to protect yourself.
Please note that he was not actually selling crypto. He got hacked, and that was yeah, that sucked.
Willie, don't you tell me what I was and was not doing. Okay.
All right. All right. Some NFTs.
I was not selling crypto. I do not yet. But yeah,
nice,
kind of wish that
t-shirts.
maybe kind of wish that maybe I had a VPN active a little bit more, and I think EXPRESSVPN is my personal VPN of choice. But Woolie, do you mind if I cut the bull spit here for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask our audience a question. When are you going to stop being okay with Netflix fucking scamming you?
Okay. What do we got?
What we got is, look, I know a lot of our audience lives in the United States, and you would think that the United States has a pretty sizable Netflix library, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Woolie, what would you say if I told you that the United States is only the third largest Netflix region, coming second to both the UK and Canada?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
We have more. That's crazy. Because even up here, I'm like, I can't watch some of the stuff I want to watch, and I need to grab EXPRESSVPN, turn it on, and check out stuff like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is not here, surprisingly. So
that's crazy. Wow.
If you are, wherever you are, there are limitations on what you can check out with your streaming services. Exactly. And that applies to games too as well. I have pre-ordered games and or had things ready to unlock at midnight, and it's like, wait a minute, it's not midnight in Canada, but in New Zealand it is. Time to take a trip with one button to New Zealand, and hey, look, we can play now, which is what a lot of people did.
But how did you... Oh, our sponsor, EXPRESSVPN!
So, so it's real simple. You can basically... with one button, one click, you get your phone, your laptop, your tablet, or all your devices connected. It's rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. You can also have it on the router level, so every device that connects to that is connected, is protected as well. So, and the security is such that it would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past its encryption. So
they're not going to live that long.
No. And by that point, who cares? You've already ascended to the next realm of consciousness.
My friend.
What is that data worth anyways? You're enlightened.
The copy here says that it's so simple, even a smart 12-year-old could make it work. And I'll double down on that. An idiot 12-year-old could do it as well.
Yes. If an idiot 12-year-old... if an idiot 12-year-old is also trying to steal your data, then a dropkick is one way of solving that problem.
Absolutely.
But the other is ExpressVPN. So secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/versuswolves. That's EXPRESSVPN.com/VERSUSWOLVES. You can get an extra 3 months for free. Once again, that's expressvpn.com/versuswolves. Thank you, ExpressVPN.
Our next sponsorship is from Factor. Woolie, listen. I don't know how to tell you this. The summer's dying. The sunny days are coming to an end.
One might say it's already dead.
One might look. I didn't want to be grim. You went there. It's all right. You want to be maximizing these fleeting final days. Look, I don't know how the weather works in Canada.
It's the last week of September. I mean, it's pretty done.
Oh, look, my point is, Woolie, the winter's approaching. We all got to be reinforcing our homes, getting things ready for the seasonal weather to come. And you don't have time to be collecting ingredients. You don't have time to be spending hours prepping just for one single healthy, delicious meal, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to eat better, and I'm trying to get my overall diet under better control, and I'm looking at my calories. I'm trying to figure it out, but also like to get it regularly, to not have to think about it and have it taste good is a lot. I kind of just want to get my batteries up and go, you know?
Yeah. But Woolie, what if there's a better way? What if there is a calorie-smart, protein-plus, and also keto-friendly options that are fresh, never frozen, and most importantly of all, dietitian-approved?
I like that.
That is what our friends at Factor provide, and these are healthy, delicious, convenient meals and nutritious and great tasting is what the copy says here.
Can confirm, actually, yes. I trust, hey, listen, there's a lot of things in life where I'm like, I can talk in front of a microphone and I can click a start and stop button and I can barely do anything else in life. I'm not gonna lie.
As soon as you close Adobe Premiere, I am basically a kind of boneless jellyfish. I don't know how heat works, and so our friends at Factor are a godsend. They have 35 different meals and more than. Hang on now, Woolie. This I'm gonna have to confirm this. No, it's correct. 60 add-ons. 60 add-ons.
That's crazy.
Yep. And look, this isn't about just survival. This is about treating yourself to restaurant quality meals.
Yeah, man. It is actually quite tricky to, get get into the swing of things, eating healthier and planning that out. And there's been times where I make the mistake of finishing a recording session and I didn't think about my meals in advance, and then I just come out hangry, and I'm like, And
those are always the moments as well. You go for the fattiest,
the worst decisions, worst decisions when you didn't think about it in advance. So this is how you stop that.
Yeah. And I think, it's like we have both gone through our fitness journeys in various different forms, and I think food is absolutely the most underrated one. Like it's that thing, abs are made in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, sure. That's a pretty good saying. I like that. Mm-hmm. Also, when you think healthy meals, you usually wouldn't think like filet mignon, but that's like they actually have a really tasty one, and it's stuff like that.
Seriously?
Yeah. That is solid, and you can, again, have this all dietitian factored in, approved, all of that is calculated, so you can do this the healthy way. So, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're interested, you can head on over to factormeals.com/versus or VSWolves50. That's VSWolves50, and use code VSWolves50 to get 50% off on your first blocks, plus 20% off for the next month. That's code VSWolves50 at factormeals.com/VSWolves50 to get 50% off your first box for 20% off your next month's subscription.
50% is crazy. I would lower that.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you know what? We'll get on the horn and see. It's too much value for our audience.
Insane. All right. Thank you.
Okay, but thank you, Factor. Appreciate it. Hey, everyone. It's the fan favorite host of Versus Wolves here, Eyepatch Wolf, and I'm here to remind you that we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/Versus Wolves podcast, where by subscribing, you can gain access to our second secret podcast, the Intermission Lounge, where we do full episodes on stuff like, I don't know, the first slam dunk, BoJack Horseman, an excessive amount of Berserk, as well as answering questions too hot for the main podcast, such as embarrassing memories that we're too ashamed to share, as well as how I would book Woolie in a professional wrestling angle with Leslie Bestington. Check it out on over at patreon.com/Versus Wolves podcast today.
Now.
So, Woolie, let's talk boxing.
Yes. The sweet, sweet science.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very sweet, in fact. I mean, might be a little... gotta watch out for the diabetes. Can't get too sweet on that science.
See, practicing your tight five right now. Is that what's happening?
For the Comedy Store?
Anybody box? No.
You, sir, what do you do? Where do you work? You're a Let's Player. What? All right.
Oh man, yeah. And in an interaction with my neighbor recently, the only interaction I've had, there was that moment where he's like, "What do you do?" And I was like,
You have to answer quickly, otherwise you are a gangster criminal, like running an operation in your basement.
I always default to I make videos for the internet, and I'm always like, fuck, that's a bad answer.
Not a porn star. God
Not
damn
a
it.
porn star.
Yeah.
No. But, this is the interaction where I came back and I was in, like, boxing getup. And, man, Woolie... So this is my third serious go at martial arts. Like, I've done, like, karate, aikido, and tai chi, but, like, never, like, consistently or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, and boxing have all been, like, okay, let's get serious about this. Mm-hmm. And whenever I start a new martial art, I am always shocked at the physical equivalent of basically switching out all your gear in Elden Ring and thinking that you can what's that? You didn't put any points into intelligence, but you're gonna try and fight with a magic wand?
Respec, baby. The respec.
Oh my god. And every time it's like it exposes different weaknesses in your body. Like, I remember when I started jiu-jitsu and like it was just like, oh my god, I don't have a core.
Yeah.
And the thing I was really surprised at with boxing was it's my legs. It's not my arms or my shoulders. It's my legs. Like, I never appreciated... Because, you always hear, like, you punch
Footwork.
With your legs, right?
Yep.
And then you think those people are insane because that's not how the body works. And then you learn it, and god damn. Okay. So,
step one, day one, all your rotational force is coming from the feet. John, how did you even find the place? How do we get started?
So, pretty much, I looked around at a couple of different places, and I found one particular place, and I was like, okay, this place looks professional. These look like decent folk. There's kind of good testimonials. I booked myself in for their like introductory class, and it's pretty much me and 3 girls, which I was like, well, that's kind of odd, but okay, because jiu-jitsu is 95% men. It's okay. 95%.
Oh,
dudes.
Yeah. Boxing gyms are super mixed, dude. Like,
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Because every class I've done, it's like 50-50 down the middle.
Yep. That's usually how it goes. Sometimes 60-40 one way or the other, but averages out to 50-50 every time I've gone. Yep.
Yeah, because like in most jiu-jitsu gyms I go to, it's like 10 guys and one girl, and that girl is usually pretty fucking tough because she has to be to last, you know. And so we do our introduction class, and you know, it's cool, it's going well. It's a lot of technique and it's a lot of stuff like that. But then we get to the moment where we start doing the bag work, and you know, it's been a couple of years since I like hit a bag, and so I'm trying to keep everything in mind, and I'm kind of like trying to, you know, keep all the technique, because
are you in wraps and 12-ounce gloves?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this class, my trainer like wraps my hands, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know, this is kind of interesting. Like this feels good.
Okay.
And yeah, just in like a pair of borrowed training gloves.
Yeah.
And so I hit the bag, and I'm like, oh, there's a satisfaction to this that I have not felt in a while. And like, obviously, I love jiu-jitsu, and a lot of me is going to be like comparing boxing to jiu-jitsu here, because like they're obviously they're both martial arts and stuff. And I'm really not trying to like lean more towards one or the other. But I think the fact that I'm even like, oh, there's stuff here that I kind of like. I guess what I'm saying is I was more into this than I thought I would be. Because when I
Let's go.
So first of all, there was the moment of like hitting the bag and being like, oh, like that
feedback.
That feels real good. But then moment number 2, actually feeling the sensation of a punch coming from the ground, going up your leg, through your hips, through your shoulder, into the bag. That is a different feeling.
Yes, man. Okay.
And so that was really interesting, like understanding, because like I just straight up didn't appreciate the technique behind boxing. I just did not get it. You know, I did not understand. And so like the first class, I go and like I fucking blow through every exercise. I'm like, like as hard as I can, you know. And the trainer, like, he's super cool guy, and he's like giving me, and then he's kind of like, you know, you don't need to put so much power behind every punch. And I'm like, but in my head, I'm like, but what's the point? Like, what are we doing then? You
haymaker.
And I gas out so fucking hard that first class. I am profusely sweating. I am like exhausted. I am like, I'm gonna be real, Woolie. Like, I was barely able to keep up with the class. And like, coming from someone who, you know, regularly does like open mats and rolls for like 8 or 9 rounds at a time, I was not expecting that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, listen, it's a different thing.
It's a completely different thing.
So, did you like have any like mitt drills or like jab focused classes or so?
Oh yeah. So
how about those shoulders that night?
The shoulders were sore, definitely, and especially after a couple of double jab drills. Fuck, man.
There's something kind of like I remember learning so quickly that like you never would think about it, but one of the hardest things in the world is just keeping your hands up. Just this takes some energy, and you have to get used to your arms, like, you know, and being ready to block, being ready to all these things. Like, it's wild how you wouldn't think that something so passive would engage so much of you, but it does. And like, there is an understanding about your battery and your stamina that is like, this is why they do skipping rope. This is why they do road work. This is why you do as much cardio as possible, and you push that breathing and your oxygen intake up as much as you can, because you have to get so used to not gassing out immediately at like hands up, defending yourself, and then if you can throw a punch, you know?
And like, I think the my cardio is decent, like, just because I like, you know, I run and I do jiu-jitsu and stuff like that.
The problem was energy exertion. The problem was outputting at too high a volume and just obliterating myself. And man, that was kind of humbling. Like, and I kind of realized it's like, well, dumbass. It's like if you rolled like with everything you had for 3 rounds and then tried to do a 4th. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess so. You know, like that was the realization. But like, I came out of that first class like excited, like, oh, this feels good.
Yes, and I love. So you hit the bags in the first class. That was the moment for me, right? My like the you know, the noise, the glass shatter moment of like, oh wait a minute, is when you're hitting the bag and you're getting feedback, right? And you know, that is like, not every combat sport, not every like, you know, martial arts thing is going to give you something as direct as that. But like you're hitting it and you see how it feels when you just throw everything you can at it, no technique. And then you learn about how to add some rotation to it, about how to straighten out, about how to position your body, and like step by step from the toes, like you said, all the way up the leg until it eventually explodes. And the last thing you're thinking about is your fist, right? But you do all of that, and even doing it slower, but adding that in, you tap it again and you see the impact on the bag change, right? And then you're like, now let's try that full speed, and you do it and the sound changes.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, I just heard the level up noise in real life.
Huge. Like,
and I got
such a fucking
to that
amazing experience. That, and like what really struck me was like, yeah, the sound. Like, so I got my first, I'd say, rotational right. Like, just, you know, I where now I could not do it consistently, and I cannot do it consistently, but I got it where everything lined up, and I just hit the bag and just like the just explosion of sound. But you know what got me? What really shocked me was the lack of exertion compared to my early punches. Like, I was not putting the same level of energy. I was not expending the same level of energy, but what I was, like, I'm not saying I was using the technique, because I'm still, like, just to preface all this, I am so fucking new at boxing, and I know that I know nothing, and when I say I do something, it's the 1 out of 10 times I get the technique right, and there's 9 out of 10 times when I am not, and I'm going to work on raising that percentage. But just to say, I get that I know nothing, because there is nothing that annoys me more than people who immediately think they understand a martial art from a couple of classes. Right. I am the most amateur of the most amateur here.
This is just to get a feel for these little simple things, because like feeling each of in the same way that it was like, oh, when I pass guard, I can see how immediately it's like, all right, what comes next in this chain of actions and decisions? There's these little moments of like, I don't know what goes into these empty spaces, but I can see the placeholder for it as a complete beginner. And like, hopefully, that's kind of what you would see here, is like that if you throw 100% of your force behind your shoulder and your fist and just go, and then you're like, whew, your arm is burning, but you're like, I'm just throwing it out there. And then you do this version of it where you're like, let me start with the rotation of the ankles and twist it, and then your hips turn. And the rotation of the hips carries your arm forward already. So you're like, by the time you're actually putting a little bit of juice into the punch, you're like, well, that was all momentum. The dominoes from my feet are making that happen. So my arms are fine. It actually feels like 10%. Compared to that 100, you know?
Right? And that's such a crazy feeling. It's like, wow, okay, I can totally see how in a boxing match, if I took wild swings, I'd be gassed in a minute. But fighting like this, I could go for so much longer, and that's so exciting, you know. But like, there was other kind of like revelations as well. Like, I was one thing that really struck me is I started to feel like, and again, this is super amateur. First couple of weeks take on boxing. It's less about punching hard and more so knowing how to position your body so hard punches happen.
Say again?
it's less about punching hard and more about knowing how to position or like maneuver your body so that hard punches happen.
Okay.
So I'd say one is like you're tensing your arm, you're bringing it back real far, you're throwing it, all that energy expending. And then the other is like it's starting from like your ankles, swiveling into the hips and coming around, and everything's loose and you're not straining, and that's it. And that's one of the things I find so hard. I tense, you know.
Yeah.
And so a couple of different times the trainers would be like, you're tense, relax, just bring it right back down and just kind of stay loose and all that kind of stuff.
So there's a little thing that I started doing internally. I remember at a certain point, it was you know, after a bunch of classes, but it helped because if you and you have somewhat of an art background as well, so this might apply. I started thinking about punches as keyframes. And I started thinking of, in animation, the keyframes are the moments that are like basically going to clue in what the in-between frames will look like. And you sort of you set these keyframes and you go, I'm going to start here and I'm going to end here. And then the in-between is how we transition from one into the other, right? So knowing that, you know, I want to start from this position, from like where I'm at, and I want to end with a clean rotation, shoulders lined up, the absolute, right? And then the feet as well, like rotated 100%. I know that's my end frame, and I know where my start is. Let me find the middle one. By the middle, I want to be about here. Okay, these are the three things to think about. Try to get the muscle memory of the final step, the beginning step, and that one middle step, and then just work on snapping into that keyframe, you know? And in every time I throw one of them, especially with like hooks and uppercuts, the uppercuts especially they're trickier because you're exploding off the ground, right? You're going into a crouch position, and then there's a bit of an like, it would instinctually kind of feel like, oh, this is unnatural. How do I get from this side up to that side? But it's like, you think when you realize that like you keyframe that you're leaning back, you're kind of upright, and then snapping these moments in your brain as like there's a three drawings next to each other for each punch. I kind of was like, oh, this feels like the right thing to think about. And as I think about the final frame, I kind of get my body into position, and I do it slower and slower and slower until it feels smooth, you know? And something that the coach I had always used to say is slow is smooth and smooth is fast, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah. But like I can totally feel that as well, because like if I try and do the technique fast, I just don't get it. Like I fuck it up. But then if I like just like you know, like just put it out real slow, think about all the different mechanics of play and all that kind of stuff, it makes sense. And then all of a sudden that gets comfortable, and then all of a sudden that speeds up, and it's like, it's really interesting. Really, really interesting.
It's so awesome too when like so as you talk about like, you know, as you get used to, like you said, like the fact that you just put the gas in the right place at the footwork, and then you suddenly find less exertion coming out of the punch you throw, right? You find yourself much better rested and the ability to continue and last longer because you're using less energy. Then like all these other little technique things start popping up. And I'm just like, even though I'm not there yet, just kind of finding out about things like there's things called like, there's the kinetic chain. Essentially, it's a term but like you need to be able to like move and evade punches and like use every movement like economically. So sometimes your evasions are going to also be your counter punches, and you know, your step outs are going to lead to a setup for something else.
This morning I was doing slips and rolls.
Yes, right. And like there's these moments where you're like, well, if you throw out a right hook and then you're coming back, like, why waste all that rotational force on the comeback and not use it to throw out the next hook?
Absolutely,
you know?
Yeah.
So like, let's convert that energy into this, you know? And so that's where the combinations come in. And like, by doing it clean into clean, you're like, I just threw out 3 punches and backed off, and I barely felt that, you know? You exerted so little and you,
wow, okay,
and you
I can't say I've hit that. That sounds amazing.
You exert so little, but you did so much, you know.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's stuff that's just way, you know, down the pipe, but it's like you start to just piece together like how you string sequences together and stuff. So tell me about that. You did some step outs, some evasions, and some weaves.
And I'd say one of the big things that really struck me was, and I just never thought about this before, the idea that boxing is asymmetrical fighting. So what I mean by that is like, so for like the 10 years I did Taekwondo and like the 5 years I've been doing Jiu-Jitsu, you practice every technique and you practice them on both sides. If you attack someone's non-dominant side in Jiu-Jitsu, that's basically a cheat code. So like, you know, any submission I get good at, I make good. I try to do it not on the side that comes naturally to me, but the other side, for the simple reason that's like, everyone knows how to defend against an Americana with this arm. But fuck, if I got you by this arm, that comes less naturally, and I've practiced this and you haven't. Same with Taekwondo. You want to kind of like, you want to have stance switches. You want to always have like as much repertoire in whatever leg you can to kind of adjust to different things. Boxing's not like that. Boxing is, you know, dominant hand back, not dominant hand forward.
Wow.
And that was really difficult to conceptually get my head around, because like, wait, we're not going to practice a right jab?
I had no idea other things were symmetrical. That's crazy. I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, you got your lead hand, you know, and you've got your power, right? Speed and power.
There is like, you know, I think most competitive people are going to lean to kind of one side or the other, but in general, with Jiu-Jitsu and Taekwondo, the way I was taught them was, you know, it's you practice both sides.
Okay.
Because you want to be able to switch.
I mean, it's almost like, you know, in a fighting game, you want to be on player one side and comfortable on player two side as well.
Exactly.
Right? In case you're facing left or right. But yeah by nature in boxing, absolutely. You have your power hand back and you have your quick hand up front. And you are going to, you as a human being are asymmetrical.
Yep. So it was interesting because I was watching a couple of videos about boxing and the kind of run up to this, and I saw one video about how the left hook is the most like underutilized, undervalued punch in boxing. And I was like, that's really interesting. They were showing like a lot of how it can be used offensively and defensively and all this kind of stuff. And so then, like, this was pre-boxing training. I was like, okay, I'm going to try. So if my boxing stance is like, you know, whatever. And I was trying to throw left hooks. Could not fucking do it. Like, I just could not get any force behind them without, like, throwing a big, wide haymaker, which is just not what this shit is. And I was like, damn, okay. I guess maybe I'll try. And so then we were doing left hooks, and there was a bit where, like, you know, like he kind of fixed some stuff like with, like, you know, my hand position and all that kind of stuff, and that was good. But then it was like, and the key is you want to pivot your left foot inwards up on your toes as you go in.
Yeah.
And I did that, and nearly fucking automatically, Woolie, boom, and it felt so good.
Yes. No, those things, especially like you're talking about going up onto your toes, right? Like there's what the coach that I had, like he would teach very exaggerated final keyframes, essentially, to like really get your body to know that motion, and like your toes are up, fully rotated to get it, and like throwing out a jab is like just snapping your hand forward, your arm forward, you know. But like when you end that hook and your fist and toes are facing the same direction, you know that's the clean hook. You know, the side of your body should be completely facing the side that you've rotated into.
It's this fucking crazy feeling where it's like you are generating a rotational force in your body. And I've never felt that before. Because most shit in Taekwondo, well, like there was a turning kick in Taekwondo, which is rotational, and there's like a back kick and stuff as well. But it's such a tight, it's like a fucking whirlwind, and it's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, those are the things too where like, I just remember how how nuts it was to watch as like some of the other coach and some of the advanced stuff. Like I'd be like, this is like we're getting into like five movement combos and things like that are like way more more than I can handle. But like taking that kind of like whole rotation, and like when you layer in like one of those evasive steps, right? Like a crouch or like a little step to the side, there's these, you kind of start to see like you create a triangle around your opponent where you can like step to the left 45-degree angle or step to the right, you know, and adding every one of those movements, right? You're like, I spent some energy going this way, let's see how we can economize it. You know? And throw in like the right type of punch. That's really cool. Did you get to any blocking or any defense, any of that stuff at all? Or?
So only very basically. Today we covered frames where like, you know, you are literally like holding your opponent for a second, but like very little like dodging, yes, but blocks or anything like that, no.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the most effective thing to do is, as Coach would say, is hit, don't get hit, right? So. Yep. Like a lot of the little things, every one of those basic beginning strings, from the day I walked in, it was, you know, throw out a jab, throw out a hook, right? And then like get out of there. And like there's always a little baked in, and get used to leaning back, get used to getting out. Don't stay there and wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, so today I started on like, okay, you throw in a jab, you throw in a double jab, you get out of there afterwards, or you to the side. You were never where you used to be. Mm-hmm. And that was a really interesting kind of change of kind of state as well, especially because like it's nearly the opposite of jujitsu, because jujitsu is so I'm fucking grabbing you and I'm here and I'm taking you down and then we're on the ground and you just never have to think about that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's wild how philosophically different the two fighting styles are.
Oh man, I'm so glad. I didn't know how much would convey in those beginning lessons, but like I'm glad you touched on a wide range of sorts just to get the feel there, because
like I think the place I'm going, which I'm not going to say because I don't want people to come there, but I think my coaches are really good and they really seem to know their shit, and they really seem. They're like very encouraging as well, which I think is great.
Because I think it's like, you know, it's almost like if someone's you're learning how to cook or so, and you've never worked with any ingredients before, and it's like, okay, so like let's just get you like, here's what salt tastes like, right? And like here's what sugar tastes like. Here's sour, just to get the flavor of it, you know? And like you get a little idea of like, oh, okay, you know? And then you're like, this is going to be the basis of like 90% of what you're doing. So we don't need to like show you what like icing sugar looks like and go into like, you know what I mean? We don't need to go there. We don't need to go into like Sour Patch Kids. We can just get used to that little bit and sort of see what you build off of. And then for a quick second, while doing that little salt and sugar exercise, you're like, wait, what's that? And it's like, oh, that's umami. Don't worry about that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if I've described it here, but I've definitely talked in the past about how one of these moments, did I talk about like my coach, like showed off like a moment of like a flex?
No,
it was basically like everything about it is you gotta be very come in humble, right? Like I didn't go into Brazilian jiu-jitsu like, I mean, this is the type of thing where I'm just like, I can't possibly like put my head lower and just go like, I know nothing, right? You don't want to have any ego walking into any of these things, and but I definitely am always like, there's a lot of places. How do I know that the person that I'm learning from is legit? You know, how do you know this place is what it is? And the coach was doing a drill. And so he was kind of talking to somebody, and he was like, okay, so he would talk to the class, and he would look over this way, and the person would be in front of him, and he'd have his mitts up, you know, so he'd be like, so I want you to do like a jab, right, step back, and then come back in with a step jab, you know, or something like that, right? And so he'd be like, all right, so you do the jab, and then he throws it up. He's like, and now with this, and then he'd be right. And then the guy did the wrong punch, and he did like something else completely. And without looking, the coach is like, so it's like jab, and then.
Whoa, okay.
He's like, that's not what I said. I said jab, right. Without like just completely. activated it, right? His head was turned and he did this. And then dude was like, oh, sorry. And he's like, that's okay. And everyone was like, he was looking at us. You know?
Jesus.
And like he just turned it on, and I was like, "This dude is real."
So it was not quite that Dragon Ball-esque, but in my first class, the kind of moment I had that is I got paired with this like older guy, and I was like holding the bag for him, then he was holding the bag for me, and I was like feeling his like bag work, and I was like, it's not that strong, you know, like he doesn't have a lot of power behind these punches, and so then it was my turn, and I was like, let's fucking go and like obliterate that bag for about 2 minutes. And then I'm like, like I'm dying.
Yeah.
And this old guy, like, then we switch places again, and he's doing it. And then I'm looking at his feet, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, shit. Yeah. And then right at the end, last punch, he just kind of leaks back. Boom! Like, just explosion of power. And I feel like he kind of gives me like a little... You know, and I was like, I see, sir.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And man, it is a whole new world. And it's been interesting. And there's stuff to work out because like I am also starting at a new jujitsu place. And this place is like an entirely different type of jujitsu to what I'm used to. This, I think, is closer to what like Command Grab James does, in that I used to do like mostly gi, like 90% gi. This place is like 90% no gi, and like there's a huge focus on leg locks and all this kind of stuff, which is all like new territory to me. I actually felt like had my first class there, and I felt so lost. We're doing octopus guard, which I'd never done before.
Which one's that?
I don't even know how to fucking describe.
Okay. All right.
But it's like it's kind of like you're kind of close to them, and you're like sort of over their back, and it's wild. But he was doing the instructions, and I felt like I had never done jiu-jitsu before, and I felt like I'm after emailing these guys telling them that I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 5 years, and I probably look like one of those crazy fucking bums who just pretends they've done martial arts for some reason. And I felt so self-conscious. But then thankfully, when we got to the actual sparring, I sparred 4 rounds, and I went 1 win, 1 loss, 2 draws. And I was like, okay, I feel like that is a respectable enough, like...
Yeah, established who you're in there.
I know what I'm doing here.
Nice.
And one of the draws was against the dude who was like 6'5". So I was like, I will take that. But the loss, dude, I have not been dog walked like that in a while.
Since the kid from last episode.
She found me again. She keeps following me from gym to gym. But then afterwards I was like, who the fuck was that guy? And I just like in like 5 minutes he tapped me out maybe 4 times. That has not happened to me in forever. And then I looked him up afterwards. He's the owner of the gym. So I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I see you are legit, right, sir.
Yes. You pay the rent here. Got it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. You perhaps needed to prove a point. You have proven that point. Good stuff.
So, when you're watching, so in jiu-jitsu, like, are you? I'm sure, like, I feel like something I got from the class I went to is a part of it is also, like, not just rolling, but standing back and watching others roll and seeing kind of their styles and learning from it from a third-person perspective and, gathering data and such. Are there styles that you can immediately identify, like, just standing back and watching?
Yeah, in a sense, but like there's basically 2 basic styles of jiu-jitsu, and it's gi and no gi. And gi tends to focus a little more on the upper body. It's a lot of arm locks, it's a lot of chokes. No gi tends to be, it's also a lot more structured. It's a lot more about positional fighting. No gi tends to be a little more free-flowing because you can't grab onto the cloth, so you're kind of and I like no gi.
it's harder cardio and it's a harder fight in a lot of ways, but it's a lot of fun as well. Like it's really cool. And I've tried to balance like a lot of my submissions as something you could use in either. So I'm a big fan of like the Darce choke. I love I really like Anaconda choke. I love anything where I can crush the life out of my opponents.
Okay. Because I ask as like, you know, there's the bit here where it's like we've gone this far without mentioning Hajime no Ippo, but I think it's about time to mention Hajime no Ippo as a really cool boxing manga and anime. And,
I am starting my rewatch.
There you go. Yeah, the Dempsey. The jet engine starts up, man. Anyway, you need, anyway, there's a whole other thing to this. So I'm like, when training, you need your soundtrack, right? And I'm like, there is Hajime no Ippo music, and there is the TJ combo.
Those are the ones.
Back to Rise, you can go 10 rounds and not drop a sweat, you know. But anyway, the watching like some of the like higher level people and experts and stuff is always really cool to just see like how they're moving and how you're turning theoretical into practical. And you know, in Hajime no Ippo, they kind of introduce a little bit of this concept of like infighter versus outboxer, and like the sort of like there's like a rock paper scissors to these different types of boxers, you know. But and I was kind of curious. I'm like, yeah, how does that look in real life? And when you kind of just see people that are like, oh, like when you get good enough and you get comfortable moving around the ring and just like, you know, staying on your feet, just playing clean, so to speak. Yeah, it's really cool to just kind of see like people kind of develop a style where you're like, okay, you're a slugger. You just don't care. You're going to walk forward, get in, and never let them get the distance on you, you know? Or like the person who's got the reach, who's outboxing, who's like, I'm comfortable with my back to the rope and I'm going to keep moving around, you know? And like all these things kind of like start to be...
So have you gotten a sense for maybe which you are?
No, I'm nowhere near that level. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't pretend that I do, you know? But like, it is an expression of your personality that is like, and how fit you are, what your body size is, what works well.
So,
you know,
I obviously am even much further than you from just knowing that. But I would also say, from the way I fight in Taekwondo to the way I fight in Jiu-Jitsu, I'm probably going to be an infighter.
Okay.
I'm going to walk forward. I'm going to get tagged. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to get as close as I can.
So, I mean, there's a lot of like there's different versions of getting like because there's infighters, there's outboxers, sluggers, and like boxer puncher, which is like the technical all rounded, and they kind of counter each other in these different ways. And again, this is all theoretical stuff too. That like people that are much higher level can be like, yeah, that some of that doesn't really apply anymore. But historically, you could go back through the greats through over the years and categorize them in these places, you know, and. Like, yeah, if you are someone who, like, feels like you can just throw one punch that would end it all, and you're just this big lunk, you know what I mean? Like, you might not be technical. You might be like a butter bean, for example. Like, that is your slugger, you know? Mike Tyson is going to be an infighter because he's coming in and and you are not going anywhere, and he's staying in that distance where everything he's doing, he's dismantling you piece by piece up front.
Do you ever hear those stories about just like a 17-year-old Mike Tyson just trying to find sparring partners, and just these grown men just going to the gym just with their heads hanging, like, I have to fucking spar Mike today, and just...
He looked 30 at 10. It's crazy, you know? But yeah, and so seeing that style and stuff and being like, okay, cool. But then you like when you think about when you watch like Muhammad Ali in the ring, like he hits and he's out, you know, he's always like swinging and he's just dancing and moving out, and he's an outboxer. He's like, I'm not getting anywhere near you. You got to come to me, you know? And like that all uses a lot of energy. And so you just got to find, you know, but like it's cool to kind of see these like categories that kind of people, you know, fall into that are like expressions of your style in a way. I find that so cool.
If this is so, like, I think about this stuff a lot with jiu-jitsu just because, like, that's what I know. But definitely, I feel like you don't pick a style; you discover your style.
That makes sense.
I love that. You know, because like I could try and do like a lot of triangles and stuff in jiu-jitsu. I could try and like hold guard a lot, but generally I love smashing. I love passing.
Yeah.
I love getting right up on that side control and holding you there. Like that's what gets me excited, you know.
For sure. I mean, like there's things where it's like, if you're a southpaw, right? If you are if you are jabbing with the right instead of the left and you're left-handed, it's going to change how people have to approach you. That's not, you didn't pick that.
I think that's such a huge advantage.
It's incredible.
To southpaw.
Yeah, you have to learn how to deal with that.
What a fucking superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here it is, Woolie. Part of your challenge was for me to spar.
Yeah.
And I was not able to.
Okay.
And there was a couple of different reasons. One, a little bit after the recording of last episode was taken up by like house move and stuff. And two, I think you were kind of fortunate in that like Command Grab James kind of reached out and like everything was like legit. But I'd say it was also like, with jiu-jitsu, someone can control you in jiu-jitsu without hurting you.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty safe. I'd say maybe a little less so in boxing, you know?
Yeah.
And what I didn't want to do is come into a new gym and kind of be like, hey, I'm a YouTuber, let's box, you know? And I was conscious of that.
1,000,000%. And I think I stacked that all up when I said it, in the recommend. I was like, I know what it might look like to just walk in and exactly be like, hey, yo, let's film this. Come on, I'm making content over here. Like, don't be that guy. And it is... You have to earn the right to spar in a lot of cases. So it's just, I totally understand.
So I think earning the right to spar is something that was going to take longer than I had a chance to do.
100%.
And so like, that's the case. There's no big reveal here. I am not about to flash footage of me sparring.
Understandable.
Now that said, I think I love boxing. I genuinely have taken to it in a way that I did not think I would. Like, I never was interested in boxing when I was little because I was like, well, why would you do boxing when you could learn karate or ninjutsu? You know, like it was always like, that's not a martial art, that's a sport. And like, obviously that changed over the years, but having done it, I just keep thinking about it. Yeah. And I keep thinking about just what it means for me as now, like, I'm going to say a fighter. I'm going to preface that with like the hobbyist fucking softest fighter ever, you know,
Asterisk.
like anyone who is close to professional would light me the fuck up, you know, just to be perfectly clear about that. But like, you know, there's moments where I'm doing like the 1-2 and I'm like, man, the 1-2 ends in the perfect position for like a knee drop double leg. And that would feel good.
And here is where, I mean, it's nothing you don't already know, but this whole thing is, so it's a recommendation, but it's a recommendation that I know this is stepping into an unfamiliar wheelhouse. But what it's actually doing is putting a nice blanket over the comfy little bed that you've already got made for you, because this complements what you've already learned. And as you know, in MMA, people who have a wrestling background that then take to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, like that complements it. And if you have striking, if you have boxing, it builds on top of your Jiu-Jitsu, you know?
Yeah, and like it's cool because like, so the specific branch of Taekwondo I learned was ITF Taekwondo. So that's WTF Taekwondo and ITF Taekwondo. I think I've said this before, but WTF is what you see in the Olympics.
What the
fuck? Yeah, I know. Look, I'm just gonna say I don't like WTF Taekwondo. I don't think it's a great representation of fighting. I think it a lot of the times it looks closer to like a game of tag with your feet, and it's just not my thing. I think, you know, each their own. ITF Taekwondo is like punch to the face, kick to the face, like, you know, like it's a little closer to kickboxing. And so like I do have like a little bit of grounding in striking. That said, I love Taekwondo. It was never my martial art in the same way Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu turned out to be. Yeah. It's always something where I felt like I was having to overcome the limitations of my body because I have short little legs,
right,
and never getting the most out of it.
Very external. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't feel like that with boxing. With boxing, I think like I have decent upper body strength, and it's using that in a way that feels good. And I feel like the feedback I've been getting from my trainers has been good. And I think like they're always going to be encouraging to a newcomer. And so like I don't want to take it too literally, but the session I had this morning was actually a private session. It was me and one other person booked in. The other person didn't show up. And so I just had a private session. And he was like, how many classes you said have you done? And I was like, this is only, and he was like, no way, that's crazy. And then like I'm taking off my wraps after class. He's talking to me and he goes, you ever thought of competing? And I was like, oh. And he's like, yeah, you know, just, you know, it's good stuff today. And I was like, oh. So here's what it is, Woolie.
Wow.
I do not have any footage of me sparring. I have not sparred. I think I gotta follow this thread until eventually I have one fight. And then maybe, like, depending on like the situation, because the last thing I want to do is put someone on, you know, camera who doesn't want to be on. Maybe we're going to have something to talk about. And I don't think it's going to be soon. I don't think it's going to be like, this is not going to be a next episode kind of thing. I am just saying this plot thread has been set in motion. And I don't know if you've noticed this, Woolie. I don't tend to do your recommendations by half, okay?
No.
I think I need to see where this goes.
This is the best. Yo. I mean, listen, you want, like, you talk about those moments that just, like, stick it with you. You know, and I've mentioned some of those key ones, but, you know, even when you're describing how, like, you go have a good roll and just, like, let it all go and, you know, feel relaxed and stuff. Like, the feeling of like doing mitt work and having the coach just be like, all right, up high, up, 1, 2, and go, you know, next. And you feel great. That feeling of just like the self-improvement, getting better, all of that, stepping up, and then getting a little bit of like a, hey, that was pretty sick. That was nice.
Yeah.
You know, getting that little
I've
nod.
gotten a couple of them, and it's like, okay.
And what you're describing right now is like, oh, those are the hooks. Those are the hooks. When someone's like, have you considered? It's like, yeah. Okay. You know, that's, and look, I mean, yeah, you're a pretty fit guy. You're you know, you're in your prime. You're young. The YouTube back hasn't kicked in fully just yet, you know? So that is very exciting to hear. I feel like something I want to mention too here a little bit is that, you know, we're talking about like jiu-jitsu and taekwondo and stuff, and boxing is a sport, right? Not a martial art. So for anyone just listening to this, keep that in mind, right? It is a sport. There's rules to it. There's a whole thing to that. And like, it's not like you're going to be like, oh, I'm learning my self-defense like techniques or things like that necessarily. Like that's not what it is. However, it does teach you that if you are going to throw your fist out at something, here's how to do it the most effective way and to use the least amount of energy for the most amount of output. You know, it's like it's teaching you the chemistry of your body in a way.
Yeah,
but the end result is it is a sport.
So I was out last night, and at one point I was just packing up my shit to go, and this guy came up to me and goes, "Sorry, do you have any money?" And I was like, "No." I said, "No, I no change. Sorry." And he just goes, "Listen, can I just please get some change off you?" And I was like, "I don't have any change." And then he comes closer and he goes, "Do you have any money?" And for a second, I was like, oh, I think maybe this is about to go somewhere. And my immediate thought was, slam. If this dude does anything more, slam that fucking jab into his chin as fast as you can. And that thought was a reassurance. Like, it was really like, it felt like, oh, no, I'm okay. You know, and like I looked at I thought, like, I think because of that I was just like, I don't have any money, and then he backed off, you know. Okay, but it felt like there was a tension for a second.
It didn't go anywhere.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, knowing that jab was in my back pocket and knowing that, like, even at the fucking nothing early stage I am, there was an element where I felt like, I think I am able to defend myself a little better than I would have been 4 weeks ago, you know? Now, that said, if this dude actually tried anything, I would drag him to the ground and snap his arm. Like, you know, it luckily that is there, but I do think there is something to be said for, like, this just... I think it was like a little hit of confidence or something, and it flashed through my mind as this weird encounter was happening.
The people with nothing to prove are the nicest people in the world, because they know, and they have there's no compensation that needs to be pushed over the edge there. You're just like, yeah, you're comfortable where you are at all times because you're not too concerned about these types of scenarios, you know? It is unfortunate and shitty that you might encounter those things, you know, but it is nice to also be like, okay, well, I don't want this, and let's do everything we can to avoid it. But here it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And, like, you know, like, the
it's
last
on the
thing
character
I ever want to do is get into any kind of street altercation.
For
because,
sure.
like, well, that is nothing to fucking gain and a lot of hassle.
No.
But there was definitely the moment here where I kind of felt like, oh, are we going somewhere? You know, and it was nice to feel like I had something that was not drag this person to the ground.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and it's important too as well, because that you don't want to have, like, because some people might be like, and now I'm cocky looking for a fight. You know what I mean? Like, some people might have the wrong image of, like, that confidence, and don't be that asshole. You know, don't be that person. I can't stress that enough.
Oh, I mean, like, I can't. Like, beating someone up untrained is not fucking impressive.
It's crazy.
Like, that's, yeah.
In a world where people can fall back down and hit their head and God knows what would happen, you know what I mean? Like, you just can't, that's just a crazy thing. I just am reminded, though, of, like, the more than one instance I've seen over the years of, like, bunch of young idiots go pick on an old boxer. And there are at least two of these where the big, like, young dude walks up and starts shoving and whatever, and old man is like, yo, what? And then just, all right, and gets into it. And you see the quickness with which the situation is de-escalated, because it's a snap, a rotation, and down he goes, right? And you're like, that dude had that in there for 50 years. Pulled it out, blew the dust off of it, and it was just as effective as it always was, you know. And I mean, like, there, you know, there's even these ones of just like a dude is walking with, you know, his partner, and like he gets like three dudes come up on them, and he just starts moving and, like, is handling 3v1, and it's like, he's a professional. Like, that is not, this is a weird power trip. That it's not, life is not comic books, you know. You can't consider this stuff to be, like, practical or the way out, but it's just seeing that is like, oh my God, like, when your back is against the wall and there's no other choice here, it sure is nice to have that as opposed to not, you know?
Yeah, and, like, again, I always try and push this with our audience, but, like, I think everyone should learn to fight on some level. You know, I think there's so much it will do for your confidence. There's so much it'll do for your mental health. There's so much that'll do for just your ability to protect yourself. Like whatever fucking you are, like, you know, like, whatever age, whatever gender, it's just, I think having the skills to fight, having the skills to throw a punch is so valuable. And, like, it's done, like, so much for both of us, Like, I think both separately, we have gotten such an incredible amount out of this shit. And, like, you know, at the heart of this podcast, this is a recommendation podcast, right? And there's never going to be anything I recommend people more than just learn to fight. You know, learn to like, take an 8-week boxing course. Like, take an 8-week jiu-jitsu course. See how you like it. See how it feels. See if it triggers that thing inside you, because it is the best fucking feeling. And it's like, I loved this recommendation, Woolie. This was so good. Awesome. And look, here's the final thing. We talked about it a little before we started recording. I know that you have kind of been looking for reasons to get back into boxing proper. You know what we got to do at some point.
I don't know nothing. Except that, like, I was looking at my schedule next weekend, and I was going to go call up Coach Lou and see what he was up to.
Hell fucking yeah, dude. Awesome.
While I'm at it, let me give a shout out to Underdog Boxing Gym and UD Performance is, like, just a great place. And, yeah, like, solid people. That's where I learned a lot. And you know, I would love to give them that shout out in Montreal.
Maybe next time I'm around, we could head over. Maybe we could do a couple of days where we go visit Command Grab James. We go do some Underdog boxing.
It'd be fun, you know. Mm-hmm. But I will say this: while you're talking about, like, you know, what you learn and the confidence and, like, and how good that feels, I would say equally as valuable about learning how to fight is that by learning how to fight, you also learn when not to fight.
Absolutely.
Right? You learn the negative space as well as the positive space. You know, you learn, like, to identify a situation that is getting risky, that is, you know, getting a little dicey, and you're more comfortable in that as opposed to just being completely thrown off by it. And you also never know when, and this is maybe, it depends on where you live. It's going to be different, but different places have a different likelihood of different types of escalations involving weapons or things picking up. You never know where that's going to go, and you don't want to be, like, pushing things in a direction where suddenly someone crazy is just like, yeah, I don't care. I got no, you know, I'm going to find my reasons to go nuts here. So, learning when not to, you know?
Yeah.
Equally as
important.
And
I think sometimes even just having the confidence that you can do it, even that will get you out of scrapes, because I can tell, like with that dude, I feel like there was a moment where he looked at me and he was like, there's something here and I'm going to move on, you know? Yeah. And I think having that confidence to just know that you can take care of yourself is going to make other people respect you just a little bit more, even if they don't know what you can do. And I think that's really valuable.
And I want that to come with an understanding of the responsibility that's associated. You know, there is some responsibility with this too. So, hell yeah. Let's fucking rank it.
Okay, so the question that people have been dying to know is the art of boxing better than Silent Hill Ascension? Okay, look, it's better than Silent Hill Ascension. It's better than Omicron. It's better than missing a fighting game tournament. It's better than Cyber 6. It's better than Police Knots. I'm gonna say, if it's me personally ranking boxing versus Fear and Hunger, it's better than Fear and
Hunger. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Where are we moving?
Is it better than Hunter x Hunter Heaven's Tower? I'm going to say parry cross counter it is.
Let's go. Yeah.
Is it better than Vinland Saga Season 1? I'm going to say it is.
Let's go, jab! And rotate it sideways so you can slip through the guard a little bit easier.
That's genius!
Rotate the fist so that you can get through. Yeah.
Now here we go, Woolie.
Oh my God.
Starting boxing better than starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? So here's what I'm going to say, Woolie. right now, to me, boxing is like the new hottest. I'm excited. I'm seeing a world of possibilities. I think I'm feeling that first fluttering of love. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the stable relationship partner who's just been there for the longest time.
It is the cornerstone of your life.
Yep. It's not about my feelings between jiu-jitsu and boxing. I think this is a collective experience of our feelings. And what I will say, I know you got a lot out of starting Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but you didn't feel a need to progress any further down that path, which is, of course, totally fine. I'm feeling that need with boxing. And I think on that criteria, I think it surpasses starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Wow, that's huge. Okay, I was kind of like expecting it to stop right underneath this spot. That is
honestly
huge.
Me too.
Okay. I respect that. That's cool. I'm glad that. Yeah, it's exciting that you feel this way. 100%.
Is starting boxing better than Legend of the Galactic Heroes up to episode 15?
And now back to the clown music, man.
Look, Woolie, I have no way to quantify this fucking argument. I think it is.
Okay. All right.
Woolie, my heart is aflutter. Is starting boxing better than kill 6 billion demons?
You experienced both, so you have that direct comparison point for the first time. You know where those sparks were and how they felt. You have to tell us.
I think we have a new number 2.
Oh my god! Wow! Wow! It's that good. It's in. It's in.
I fucking love boxing.
Oh, let's go.
I think about it so much. I am so fascinated by it.
You had Ness sweating for a second there.
Well, Ness shouldn't be done sweating. Because we have not decided number 1.
John.
Woolie.
John. Did you enjoy starting boxing more than Earthbound?
I think we got to make this call together.
Okay. So, I started boxing and played Earthbound and had that journey. And the effect that it has had on me, if I were making that call, is it absolutely did. It absolutely does. And I can't go back and say that I know what childhood Earthbound versus starting boxing at a younger age would have felt like. But as someone who has done both as an adult, for me, that's where I feel. But
I love Earthbound. Yeah. There is a little portion of my creative DNA that was written by Earthbound. Now, that said, I don't think Earthbound is a perfect video game. There's parts of it that I think don't work and parts of it that I think are frustrating. But it is such an amazing, imperfect creation. And I think its flaws are its flaws, and it's fine. It is not affected by them. The thing about Earthbound, though, is that Earthbound was never my real recommendation when choosing it. Earthbound was the jab. The Wright is to follow. And I think what that means, Woolie, is that for the first time, we have a new number one.
Oh my god. Upset the table, flip it all. We're going nuts. The hierarchy of power has changed in Versus Wolves.
It's a new world, baby!
The hierarchy of power has changed. Has it, Rock? Oh my god. Okay.
Look, that is where I'm at. I feel in love with boxing. I did not expect to fall for it this hard.
Oh, let's go. Let's go, baby. Oh, man. Yo, Hunter is going to be so proud. He's popping off right now. HD Executioner is like, ah!
Somewhere in the depths of Michigan, a joyous cry rings out.
Yep. Okay. So here's what you need to do now, John. Now go play Steve Fox again. Now go try that again and see how that feels, you know? Go pick Akihiko, see what happens.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is huge.
Woolie, I'm going to be real with you. Going into this Pantheon of Greatness section, I didn't know that was going to happen.
Man.
But when I examined my heart...
You know, trust your feelings. Trust what you know is true. I
Look, the Pantheon is an unpredictable place. Anything can happen.
And the logic makes sense. It's airtight. I believe in it. You know, I believe in it like I believe in this right. You know, like hell's yeah, man. Oh my god. Oof, ooh.
Yeah, Woolie, like, you know, thanks for recommending that one. That was well, I was going to say that was a blast. That continues to be a blast, and I think this is going to be a real new and interesting thing. And look, at some point on this podcast, video will go up of me boxing. Don't know when, don't know how. It's going to happen.
Well, man, friendship era. Friendship era.
See, this is okay. We can do this.
Yeah.
And with that, Woolie, it's time to move on to our second recommend, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Nice fucking swerve on that name last time, by the way. That was a real...
I was pretty... But you know,
that was a clever play.
Anything. I'm a bit of a wordsmith myself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a Guilty Gear Strive flask?
You know the deal. Bullshit blazing. Keeps you nice and hydrated. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So
new number one. Boxing tea thrown to me. Okay.
Didn't know where that flavor was going. I gotta say, that was a surprising wild ride. And so Jujutsu Kaisen. This is one of those funny ones because I talked about it last time, but Punch Mom had started this anime, and it was like,
oh yeah,
she had watched, you know, and seen it, and this is one of the few things where she's seen something that I haven't, and was kind of, I was like, oh, what's your feeling? And she's like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm curious to see what you would think about stuff, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay. But like, this is pretty much, I think it's like the first shonen style thing she's watched, Shonen Jump thing she's watched besides like My Hero Academia, you know. So a lot of stuff is kind of like fresh, never experienced, you know, a lot of the shonen things, you know. And so when I took a look and I sat down and I was like, all right, let's see what's going on here. I feel like I got the lay of the land and kind of came back and talked after a couple episodes and, you know, gave the impressions and basically, you know, it was funny because I was describing how it was like, okay, here's a story. And in that story, there's stuff that's happening that resembles things that I've seen before in other shonens, right? And so,
oh yeah,
and so like you're you know, like she's like seeing a lot of this stuff for the first time, and I was like, hey, let me show you. Let me just describe like a little bit about, you know, Bleach. Let me just describe a little bit about Kakashi. Let me describe a little bit about a bunch of things over the history of these, you know, shonen kind of animes and stuff. And it's like, all right, you've got a naive, spunky high school kid, you know, he's brave enough to risk his life facing the demons. An elite future team member is impressed. Then there's like the strongest hero we know taking him under his wing, you know, your of sorts. And, you know, you got your bond that forms, you've got the girl that joins, and then you've got like the you know, let's grow strong and progress as we approach the tournament arc, you know. And I'm kind of looking at like all that as it's coming in, and I'm like, yeah, this is McDonald's. This is McDonald's. And it's well, here's the thing, right? I'm like, in the sense that I'm like, continue. I see the pieces and I kind of am like, hey, I'm expecting certain things to happen, and to some degree they kind of are. And, you know, there's a couple twists to it, but overall it's like this time around it's cursed energy is, you know, your chakra or your ki or your nen and stuff, and how are the mechanics going to like express themselves. And we start seeing the, you know, the other skilled kids arrive in advance of like, you know, the where the tournament is going to kind of happen. And I'm like, oh, I always like a raw brawler type that uses whatever the, you know, the energy of the world is. I like my Kenpachis, I like my Rock Lees, you know, I like my Uvogins. So when you have a like Toto style character that shows up, it's like, oh yeah, okay, that guy's pretty cool. Let's see where this is going to go, you know? And of course you've got a main character who's got an inner source that's OP, but you're going to like not rely on it as a crutch, you know? And so it was funny because like I'm kind of describing this stuff to Punch Bombs was talking about it, and it's like, but you know what? Sometimes you just want some fucking nuggets, dude. Sometimes you just want some fucking nuggets, you know?
So, dude, I always have to have a shonen on the go, because at some point I just need the main character to hit that power explosion.
Yep.
I just need it in my soul. I watched like 40 episodes of Fire Force, dude. I have watched 200 episodes of Fairy Tail. I just need it.
Wow, Fairy Tail. That's crazy. I didn't know. Okay.
Fairy Tail was just my junk food for 2 years.
Wow.
And fuck it, I love that show.
Holy shit.
Not always good. It's just what I need. Anyway, go on.
All I know is that t-shirt that's like fighting for your friends. That's what it means to be Fairy Tail.
Isn't that rad?
But, and look, when you see that hot, fresh, like that apple pie coming out of the oven and it's got a little Mappa logo on the bottom, the Sakuga quality is fucking awesome, man.
And only gets... Now, there's some caveats to that we'll get to. But yes, the animation is fucking beautiful. There's a shot from the second episode where it's Gojo spinning around and just backfisting Sekina.
Mm-hmm.
I just watch that sometimes. Just that one selection of cuts. It's so beautiful.
No, there's some notable choreography that is like, holy shit, right? So, you know, as charged going through this season, you're kind of seeing the moments where like they're like, all right, I know some people get on my case when I say this, but there's moments where I say like, yo, okay, the budget, let's go through the roof now. And if you don't like hearing about budget, that's fine. But it's like, the point is the Sakuga, right? The high quality animation.
The production value went through the roof. Sure, fine, whatever.
The thing starts to look really cool. The movement,
time and
animation
energy went into this.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, you have like all the things where I kind of expect to see, like, I'm like, yeah, if I was in high school, what do I understand? What do I get? I understand the pressure of exams. I understand possibly coming from a family where the name my family name has a pressure to succeed. And it's like, this is also stuff that we've seen echoed throughout all of our shonens, you know? There's all these little, these bits and pieces. But you have a target demographic, you have an audience, and you want to, like, you know, just do some cool shit. So when they're like going, hey, how strong would you say this character is? And it's like, oh, he's about 8 or 9 fingers strong. I'm like, there's our metric for power, for measuring power, fingers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Jujutsu Kaisen is basically your introductory episode has Yuja Itadori as the main character, who's a strong and spunky kid in high school, and he's part of the occult club, and he's pretty talented in everything else, but like he's just kind of like, he just wants to focus on that because it's more relaxed and fun and chill, and he doesn't have all the stress of the other sports teams coaches chasing him down and stuff. But like ultimately there is a cursed artifact that is near his school that a skilled team member, Megumi, shows up to retrieve, because part of his job as being a sorcerer is to track down these cursed artifacts and
And Megumi is like that classic, like kind of more somber, darker main character. I once saw Megumi described as Vegeta if he took his meds, and I laughed at that for a good solid 2 minutes.
That's really funny. There are, you can't throw around, you cannot misuse the word Sasuke, and you can't throw around those accusations lightly at anybody, so I never would. But I will suffice to say that, Itadori is big, brash, spunky, fire energy, red Oni, and Megumi is blue Oni. He's cool and calm and collected.
I would say Itadori is a little less irritating than some of these, some of the shonen protagonists tend to be. I'd also say maybe a little less notable. Like whenever I think about Jujutsu Kaisen, it takes a minute or two for me to get to Itadori, because there's other characters I just like so much better.
Yeah, his personality is kind of like, but it will, to be honest, it's like there's a little edge to it, but for the most part, he's a naive, good kid. It reminded me a bit of Ichigo to some degree, where it's like he's got spunk, he's got edge, but like he's also, there's a simplicity to it. And then there's these little moments where it's like, because it's also a modern show and stuff, he's just like, oh, like, what's your type? And it's like, oh, I'm into like a Jennifer Lawrence type of girl, or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm like, we're getting that in an anime? That's wild. We're really in.
There's another bit where the girl, what's her name? The orange-haired girl.
Yes.
She's like, what are we going to do? Play Smash Brothers? I'm really good at the Wii version.
Yeah. Shit. I have my notes. Kugasaki. Yeah. So
I'm going to say I struggle a little bit with the names of this show, because especially when you get into the second season, there are so many names that are like 2-syllable.
Okay.
With very similar sounds and letters.
Yeah, I'll do my best to the name and describe and stuff. But I mean, it's also one of these things where anytime any new shonen that drops is going to require a lot of repetition on names for me to sink them in, You get introduced to, anytime you get introduced to a classroom full of kids at a time, you're going to have to or a school for that matter, you're going to just be like, yeah, some of these last or first names are going out the window,
Mm-hmm.
No, so all of that is fun. And you kind of have this thing where it's like, okay, in the process of retrieving this cursed artifact and demons attack, Itadori is like, he's courageous and strong and brave enough to throw himself out there and kind of fight, because holy shit, he can keep his own even though he's just a human. You have one of those moments, and then the only way in this push comes to shove, the demons at his throat kind of instance to deal with things is the cursed finger that they have. He swallows it, gets tossed up in the air, and the demon that's trying to eat it is going to get too powerful, so he swallows it instead, and then it pops in, and then Rukia's like, why is his sword so big? No. We're having fun. He powers up, and Sukuna, the being that
the sign of having fun is definitely when someone tells you that that's what's happening.
Sukuna pops up, and he is the owner of that finger. He's a sorcerer from the past that is just a god beast motherfucker. And he takes over, and you see like the transformation, and then the inner demon inside, no tails this time. Just kind of I'm gonna
oh no, here's the thing, Woolie. I get where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with any of it, especially in the first season.
Yeah, I'm just
we'll get to that. You're not fucking joshing. You fucking
no, but like he pops off, and Sukuna comes out, and then like, and sure enough, just as we get to see that powered up form, against the okay, I'm gonna stop. I was about to say Menos Grande, but I'm just gonna stop now. You get it. All right. You have the fucking you've got Gojo, who just rolls in and is like, this blindfolded motherfucker.
Gojo is a lot of fun, and he is one of my favorite like shonen archetypes. He is the I guess he's the All Might's not my favorite. Don't like it.
I know you don't want to. I know you hate that one, but he is the unstoppable god force.
I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. He's like my favorite character. The dude from Hajime no Ippo, the heavyweight boxer, Takamura. He's the Takamura where it's like, oh, this dude is a fucking god king, and he's not a villain, and he's on the side of the good guy, but in several ways becomes more interesting than the protagonists.
Yeah. No, this is less of a character and more of a force of nature. Yeah. And because of that, and because of, again, like All Might, you are an emblem to this world. I also am just like, yeah, you can't stick around because that's way too much power, But it's kind of interesting how they build the world around this mentor character, because they later go into it how like he is essentially the linchpin keeping the world in order, and like they go into these really specific breakdowns about how his powers work. Dude, it's fucking cool. Like I watched a couple episodes and I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. And then I like did a wiki dive and I read about like how his specific powers tie into each other, and like it's not that he's invincible, it's the specific ways he's invincible that fucking rules. Like it's so cool. So they like have they have the moment where it's like you establish Sukuna is like this big fucking badass from the past. He's one of the most powerful sorcerers ever, and then Gojo is like, okay, you say you can have him under control, right? Give me 10 seconds of him. Let's see what you've got. And he lets him out, and he's like, okay, handled. Just handled. And they're like, and he comes back. He's like, oh, wow, you actually have him under control. Okay, that's pretty impressive. Fair enough. You said you could do it. So, we should be wiping you out for all intents and purposes with that danger inside of you. But let's see. Let's hold on a minute. That potential you show for suppressing it is pretty impressive, And they're like, yeah, like, so you think, so you can clearly handle that guy. What if he were all 20 fingers? And dude's like, it might be a bit tough, but nah, I'd win.
And what's kind of interesting is like he does have that little pause, right?
Yeah.
And the further the series goes on, the more fucked up that pause is. The more fucked up it's like, wait, how could anyone even maybe stand up to Gojo? Because like he like the levels they go to show you how fucking insane his power is awesome. And then you're like, wait, second I could like give him pause? What the fuck can second?
What the fuck does that mean? You know? And so you go a little bit further forward and it's like, okay, I mean, this is not me. I've seen people throw around discount Kakashi, as a bit, but it's like, actually, when the eyes come out and he goes from being the goofy radish head to like Vash the Stampede when his hair gets wet, right?
Beashiest motherfucker you've ever seen.
Eyes, the blue, the glow, and it's like what is this Bishi fucking motherfucker about to do? Domain expansion. Infinite void, and it's like, oh god, we're going to 2001. Like it's the end of the universe. You never stood a chance, you know.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, and like domain expansion as a meme has like caught on before. Like I've heard about that because it's like this is the new Bankai. This is the new like, domain expansion. Exactly. Right.
There's our thumbnail.
Yeah, it's hot shit too. It's pretty hot shit because it's like,
oh look, I have been looking for a good Bankai replacement for a while. Domain expansion rules. The photo opportunities you can create by dropping a good domain expansion. So for people who are unfamiliar, when a sorcerer reaches like a certain level in Jujutsu Kaisen, most of them drop like a domain expansion. This is the same as putting a field card down in Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh! And it means that reality now operates by your rules, and that's where you can summon your biggest, most fucked up attacks. It sounds kind of basic, but the way they use it is really crazy and fun, and specifically some of the visuals behind those domain expansions.
And that's what I wanted to say, is that my favorite part about that was not just the escalation to ultimate power move being used in the shonen battle. It was the art direction and the creativity of like the environment they're in, where I'm like, you're in my world now. What does my inner world look like?
That moment where Sukuna does Malevolent Shrine.
Man. So you see like, I guess, it's like basically the character's inner personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful. So, in this particular case, you get like these the levels of power established, and he fights the volcano-headed curse.
So do you know what's really fucked up? So Gojo fights the volcano-headed curse, right?
Yes, his name is Jogo. Gojo fights Jogo.
Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I am dyslexic and I am trying, okay?
That's a rough one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so later on, Jogo has another fight, and you realize how fucked up it is that Gojo could do that.
Yeah, he shows up and fucking handles that character, and you see what Gojo is capable of. So around this point, things are like you've got the established characters and their friendships and stuff, and that's all like coming together. And then they start introducing and focusing on this character Junpei. And he's this kind of mousy little quiet kid, and he's got his bangs covering, his eyes, and he's outside of the characters that we know, the school and everything, and he just kind of like gets pulled into the world from like he's being bullied at school, and like kind of just incidentally finds himself after this kind of like this horrible moment, like following around one of the curses, and as you kind of like follow this other character's story, it's so interesting because like as you're watching and seeing him like learn and follow like this other path, the intro to the show has like everyone doing their cool stuff, and then at the end you kind of have this shot of Itadori and Junpei, together, and like everyone's and having fun as a class together, and it's like, this is I'm not sure what I'm looking at here. And so you sort of see like these moments of escalation that get higher and higher and more like real, where Itadori is also someone who's like, he doesn't want to take life, you know, like that's a huge sticking point for him. And so like the bad guys are like, awesome, I'm going to use that against you. And so Mahito, who's your psycho, long, white haired, stitch faced, just, you know, like, you know, tongue out, like kind of freak.
He's like your Pegasus.
Sure. Yeah, and he's like touching and transmuting and turning people into monsters and stuff.
And he is actually like, I find his powers like quite disturbing, because it's all basically he touches you and you turn into a weird blob creature, and he does this to dozens of people. One of
the most interesting things artistically, just like grabbing people, bystanders around, and just using people as objects as weapons and walls and things, you know.
And like once he touches you, you're dead. Like you're dead. And like it's I think it speaks to one of the strengths of the author of Jujutsu Kaisen. Like that dude has a grasp on horror that I don't think a lot of shonen artists have, and he is able to do some disturbing shit with it.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, no, there's some real body horror and like violent moments that are just like real fucked up, you know, times where like you don't just cleanly explode. It's like from the top, or you know what I mean? Like these little things where you're just like, oh shit. And so you're like, right. This is post Chainsaw Man Shonen Jump. You know, like shit's gonna get real vile sometimes. It's just gonna get real and bloody, you know? But well, then again, you know, I mean, go back long enough and there's old series. You got your Fist of the North Stars and stuff. But anyway, all this to say, you have this thing where as he builds up this friendship with Junpei, you know, all of that is just to manipulate and eventually like break Itadori. And in this moment where Junpei is kind of like, just, it's such a fucked up, sad story of like him, his mom, his life, everything is just like kind of taken from him as he gets caught up in this story he knows nothing about, you know. And like this one kid he kind of gets to have, he's sort of friends with for like a second.
And it's nice because their friendship is happening outside all the shonen shit.
Yeah.
They're just going to each other's houses and watching movies, and they're just normal friends. Like, it's not like they meet on a mission and they're like, you're pretty good. Like, it feels like a very innocent friendship between these just two teenage guys. And when it starts to come apart, it sucks. Like, it actually, you feel it, you know?
They meet up for like initially it's for a mission kind of moment, but then Itadori is like, no, you're cool. We like the same movies. Let's hang out, you know? And then his mom walks by and he's like, hey, you hungry? Let's come over. I'll make some dinner, you know? And like
that's the scene that kills me, like eating with the mom. And
it was so great, you know? And just, you kind of set that up, and like he gets a friend. He gets a sense of normalcy, you know? And just immediately followed by like, now let's rip all of that away from you. And like this all sort of gets to a head, and in a moment where, you know, Junpei loses everything and is like, you know, just like, I'm gonna, like, they actually have like interesting, like they discuss like the philosophy of the world, and like he's like, I'm the kind of person who would never if I could press a button to kill everyone that hated me, I wouldn't. But no, to kill everyone that I hate, I wouldn't. But if I could do it for everyone that hated me, then I wouldn't think twice about it, right? And like you kind of see him kind of get like trained and by Mahito about like, just it's like taking life shouldn't be a thing to worry about. It's fine.
It's weird because like I don't want to overblow it, and I don't want to take it into like fucking weird territory. But like, to me, one of the biggest problems in the world isn't hate. It's like nihilism. Mm-hmm. It's like the belief that apathy. There cannot be good things. I feel like you can see that being bred into this character.
Absolutely. And he sees no other way forward, especially, you know, given like everything he's been through, and then like the little hope he's given to have it ripped away again, you know? And so like there's a moment where you basically have Itadori able to like get to the school where things are escalating beyond the point of no return, and he's trying to reach out to him, and he's able to actually reach through to him and be like, hey man, I know we just met outside of this, and we don't know, you don't know where I come from or the society or the school this whole sorcerer thing, but come hang out, come be friends with us, like you'll love it. We can teach you how to use and turn this, like you're going through a lot of loss right now.
You might as well be on the name entry screen for a new party member.
Right? And it's like, I know how much everything hurts right now, but like, I promise you, like you have friends. And he's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. And then fucking Mahito just grabs him and melts him and turns him into this fucking drooling, crawling mess. And it's like, it's so slow and fucked up that like, as that happens and he accepts, to me, I'm like, oh my God, the intro, right? Of them, like, what if he was one of their friends? What if he was hanging? That intro never happened,
never.
And he's just dreaming on a bus about, like, oh yeah, what if Junpei met everybody, And as the story goes on, they add more and more characters to that last shot as well. Like the full roster starts to kick in, and it zooms in on this one guy. And it's like, yeah, he never got that. And so, fuck, So I was like, oh shit, oh that hit.
Good. I'm so happy that hit. Okay, cool.
That was really well done. And so I'm like, I'm watching these like the curses that are incarnations of.
Okay, interesting. I gotta say, this is earlier than I thought the show would get you.
Yeah, incarnations of human suffering and fear of these other things, like almost like how demons in Chainsaw Man work with, like, like the deaths caused by these things. It's like that's what some of these curses are representative of. And in that process, we have some exams, we do some fun stuff, we meet some of the other characters, and one of them's a panda, and that's fucking sick, and one of them's a mech robot thing, and that's cool.
So I don't actually like there are some, like, my favorite characters in Jujutsu Kaisen are in the supporting cast, and then there's characters that I don't like that much. One of them is the panda, because I feel like when you remove the fact that he's a panda, it's not that interesting.
Yeah, he's almost like a mascot, I guess. He's good. Like, he's funnier than he is like actiony, for his role. He's but then, and so we also get introduced to Nanami, the businessman, the white suit, right? And dude, that
Nanami fucking rules.
So Punch Mom was like, "Oh, I think you're gonna like this character," and I was like, "Yeah, the guy who's like, what's his deal?" He's like, "Man, I went to school to be I'm talented and I have sorcery ability, so I tried to become a jujutsu sorcerer. That shit sucked. It was too hard work and I didn't want to do it, so then I became a businessman. That shit sucked. I didn't want to do it, so then I went back to sorcery." And like, he's just this pragmatic, cold, logical, like fighter, and like his ability, of course, is like, he bisects things at the 7-3 ratio for the critical hit on them, and it's a very logical, cold ability for a logical, cold man. I wish his weapon wasn't a wrapped up like butcher knife. It's a bit odd shaped as an artifact.
So, I think there's a lot in Jujutsu Kaisen where, especially in this early season, it's really the author figuring shit out, and fighting styles become a bit more like cemented down and become more interesting over time. So I think you'll see that.
But what happens is he does some stylish shit, and I'm like, I dig what's going on there. And that's Nanami sells me, a good bit as well. He's like a nice character.
Oh, you have some fun Nanami shit coming.
But then Todo.
Yo! This is the point I was waiting for. This is the point I was waiting for. We got our boy Woolie Versus Wolves host number 3, Todo. Our kind of dude.
Yo, what kind of girls are you into? Oh, well, man.
I mean, You know, that's maybe the one thing that I don't quite see eye to eye in him on, but
fair enough.
Get into that.
But the energy is he's like, this dude loves his idol. He just wants a handshake. But most importantly, he wants to just he is like,
he loves fighting. He also loves his weeb shit.
Yep.
He's Versus Wolf host number 3.
And he is just the, you know, I'm going to take all this concept of cursed energy and yada, and you put it into my fists, right? I just brawl, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, let's go. And so you just get the obviously when the exams pop off, shit gets real. The exams never go according to plan. You know this. We all know this. Shonen exams are going to get interrupted by real shit.
What do you mean there's a bad guy approaching?
You know, and so Hanami, the ancient like wood forest earth demon, you know, shows up, and we get this 2-on-1 where Itadori is getting better at fighting, and he's learning to, like, you know, get in there, and Todo is like working with him, and he's got the boogie woogie, which is the ability to switch places anytime at any moment, and they're having a 2v1, and the choreography is fucking incredible. It's so sick.
That is the moment, Woolie, when I was like, okay, Jujutsu Kaisen's legit.
Yeah, no.
This I am now taking this. I am now not making fun of it anymore. No. I am dragging it out of the Hero Academia bucket and being like, you're with me now. You're okay.
And I hope you will notice that from this point forward, I have no more fun to be made of this show, because absolutely the same
Let's
thing.
Go!
Right?
Okay, yes! Friendship era!
He jumps in and does the fucking double kick and lands and then hits the third one and then snap. And they're just like, you get what is effectively like the hype of one of those Rock Lee versus Gaara moments, but the switching positions choreography is so cool.
I think it's like the sound effect of the clap, but there's just a little fucking dopamine hit in my brain whenever he does it. And like, it takes no animation as well, because it's literally just two characters just going boop.
Yep.
And it's
honestly, like it was peak, you know, like that fight felt fucking, it was incredible. And then there's these little bits they throw on top of it where it's like, oh, by the way, explaining your moves to your enemy makes them stronger. what a fucking 2000 IQ shonen fucking move, right? Yeah, the thing that we know it's going to happen anyway, because it has to, according to the genre, whether it's internal monologue or external. But here it's like, no, you have a reason to explain your techniques. It makes them more powerful by putting yourself at a disadvantage. And that's not inconsistent, because the concept of pacts exists, right? Where it's like creating disadvantages means you can trade them off for other things. So I get it. It's consistent to the world. Okay, I have one thing that I'm like, there is a feeling, I'm excited at this point, and I'm really like fucking digging it, but the overall, there is one element where I'm like, this is goofy and I'm on board, but I have to admit, like, the answer to people's techniques and their abilities is bullshit countering bullshit, right? The answer is world jargon that you never could have known about until it was introduced to you for the first time.
There's a really famous meme that goes out around Jujutsu Kaisen, and it's like, okay, I've employed my domain, but he's employed a simple domain within that, which has deactivated my barrier, which means now I have to combine cursed energy with a curse. And it's someone like looking all that, and then it's just the guy going, I ain't reading all this shit.
I mean, literally, right? Because, and I'm like...
Okay, here's what it is, Woolie. I agree with you totally. What I will say, if you want to do some Wikipedia dives into how specific powers work, shit is actually cool.
Oh, so I got some of the gist for sure, but there was a lot of moments where you know, you have the like, hey, I'm on the ground. I'm like, oh, I'm using my force field on the playground. And then it's like, oh, well, I've got my force field cutting sword. And it's like, okay, but I explode my force field so that it hurts you. And it's like, yeah, but I teleported behind you before that explosion. It's like, but I stopped time, so my time stops your teleport. You know, and you're having a little bit of that. And you're like, yeah, okay, right. The simple domain, the domain amplification, you know what I mean? Like all the little things that are like coming in, and like you're like, yeah. there is something to that where it's still cool when you're watching it employed, right? And I still enjoy that. But I always go back to my favorite moments are, especially in these types of shows where you're like, everyone's got a power, let's see how they fight against each other and overcome. My favorite ones are like, I'm going to go to JoJo, right? But the ones where we know the rules and the answer is actually something you or I could have thought of. But it was because it's the answers are in front of us. The chessboard is here, not a new source of power that nobody knew about until this moment, right? So it doesn't make it any less fucking sick when you see a black flash, you know, and he goes, ah, da! And it's like, oh, what's the limit? 4 in a day? Well, let's do 5, you know? But like when in Duel is fighting the Stardust Crusaders in JoJo, and it's like, I'm a blind man, I have water, and it's a mile-wide stand, and the only way for him to work is he has to hear you. So, like, when we land on the sand after this crash, any footsteps lead to being targeted and sniped by the water. Okay, how do we stay above the sand? You know? And then it's like, oh, we're gliding for a bit. Get a footstep. He knows we're over there. Like, we're now using the things we know. Footsteps, sound, gravity.
Those fights are conversations.
Yes. Right.
They do that. He does this. They say that. He says this. And there's a back and forth and like a flow and a narrative, so it makes them good. And I would say Jujutsu Kaisen, not a great show for that. There are moments that are fucking hype, but for the most part it is like, I will go beyond my limits because you have gone beyond your limits,
right? And so just understanding that it's not like the character is going to do something super clever that you, the viewer, couldn't have thought of, as much as it is they're like, I'm going to employ some deeper lore and deeper arcane shit that you never knew about in this moment, and it's going to be like, oh fuck, this is some hype shit, but I don't know what it is. And then that ends up being the way to counterplay something that seems impossible.
The way they get away with it a lot of the time is just the shit that the characters employ is really fucking sick.
Yeah.
Like there is a metal album quality to some of the attacks in Jujutsu Kaisen that I just always get a kick out of.
100%, right? Especially like Gojo fucking doing anything. But so then, you know, you kind of wrap up that amazing Todo Itadori versus Hanami fight, and some of the last little bits as we power up and he eats more fingers and he's getting more powerful, and I'm like, oh yeah, we've got a scale that is escalating, you know, and it's like, the only reason to have a sense of like get one finger at a time is so that you can blow that expectation out of the water. But regardless, right? You know, it ends with this kind of smaller arc with like a little bit about Megumi's backstory and you know, kind of these hybrid curse human things, and it's interesting. It's a bit of an odd one because it's like,
so you got to the end
of season 1.
Interesting. Okay, and I was not sure you were going to do that.
Oh yeah, no, Boogie Woogie is pulling me all the way there, you know. And it's interesting because like the last arc is like it's a bit more of the backstory, but like the threat is not as much, so it's a bit of a denouement, you know. And so like I do feel like the second to last bit was like a bit more exciting than kind of the last hybrid curses they fought, you know. But yeah, like it definitely establishes itself as like, yeah, this is a fun ass shonen, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I was like, you want some good McNuggets earlier, but I'm like, no, there's some really cool shit here, and
there is,
and so, you know, as per that, I'm like, well, according to Netflix, this is all wrapped up, but there's this movie over here. What the fuck is happening with this movie? That's why I popped this fucking movie on. And I watched Jujutsu Kaisen 0. You know, and it's like, what's happening here? And it's like, oh, well, this is like, it's basically like, yeah, you basically once you finish season 1, like, because Netflix has that, it has the whole season, and then it's got like the movie, and I was like, yeah, let's just see. It's 2 hours. I can throw that in and see what's going on. And it's like, oh shit, this is interesting. We're kind of jumping back in time a little bit, and we're getting a little of what's happening before your main character shows up, and you kind of introduce Okotsu, this fucking tragic, poor visual novel kun.
Jesus, yep.
Visual novel kun, you know? It like looks like a nervous, generic character that could have been a main character in any other story, you know?
Okay, so here's the thing I like about Okotsu. He kind of is like the second protagonist.
Yes.
And the way they position him later on, super interesting.
Because, like, you have him appear in the same cursed room that Yuji was placed into, where they wake up and then Gojo's talking to them, going like, hey, so you're supposed to die, but let's see what we can do about that, you know? And it's like, oh, shit.
There's actually a really funny meme that went around, and it was Itadori in that room. And it's basically, you know, that Jujutsu Kaisen is in its like final days now.
Okay, yeah, it's wrapping up, yeah.
It's like a page from the most recent, or it's like a panel from the most recent Jujutsu Kaisen, and then it's Gojo back in the room, and it's like in his speech bubble, and he's saying, so that's what's going to happen if I don't kill you right now.
Fuck. Yeah. It was all a dream. But that was a really, like, yeah, this poor kid is just fucking, he has like just the purest childhood, and then that into tragedy creates, like, you know, him as like one of these like confusingly powerful beings in this world, you know? But it just kind of gives you a little insight into, like, I guess, like what happened beforehand, and the relationship between, there's like an evil sorcerer that's been behind the scenes alongside Mahito called Geto, and like a bit of like what his whole thing was, and like they kind of referred to like this incident that happened in the show for 2 seconds, and so here you get to actually see that incident, you know, the night of 100 demons or 100 curses or something to that effect, you know. But yeah, it was just a fucking a nice rad, you know, escalation of bits. And
the last scene between Gojo and Geto, that hits me. I'd say too much.
Because they're just, you know, like they're having their discussion on their philosophy, so to speak, you know. That was pretty fucking cool. So we pop on season 2.
No, my God! Woolie, how far did you watch?
So I watched that first season 2 episode, and I'm like, wait, is the show 3D now? That is crazy. It is like where they're trapped in the hallway, and we're seeing everything get established, and I'm like, what the fuck is like? And it's young Gojo and it's young Geto, and they're all students, and we're watching the flashback from the flashback, even further back in time. And I'm like, oh, I am down for some Kakashi Gaiden right now. Let's go. Let's see it. Let's see what happens here.
So you met him. You met my boy.
Well, I'll say that, you know, Gojo and Geto are hanging out, and who are you thinking of?
Papa Fushiagoro.
Oh, old man. Yeah.
No.
Toji. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
What if Rock Lee fucking murked people?
100%. Yeah. And it's funny, he's got like dead whatever his name is, Sasuke's dad almost face and eyes, you know, in a way, which, you know, but it's just like, yeah, I'm smoking, I'm gambling, I don't have cursed energy, I'm here to fuck people up. You know. And it's this backstory of like, yeah, so what is the deal? Megumi's clan is like, this is his dad, and the whole world is kind of held together by Tenma-kun, or Tenma-kun, whatever, Tenma-sama, yeah, Tengen-sama, excuse me. And this girl is chosen to be the sacrifice that's gonna, like, she's gonna fuse into it to keep it going, but it's like unclear whether it's like, are you really like sacrificing this person, or is it fusion? And it's like, but it's a weird kind of dubious thing, but for various reasons, many people don't want that to happen. And so they're out to like protect and escort and all that. Stuff's popping off. Here's what you need to know. Under all of heaven and earth, I alone am chosen. Man, it goes. It fucking goes, dude. And that does a really awesome job of establishing the friendship between the two. And, you know that it's going to be tragic. You know it has to go sour. But I'm like, how's it going to go sour? And I fucking so appreciate the fact that, like, when Toji does, so like, yeah, we're going into spoilers, I mean, at this point, we're just going to go into it, but like, when you're looking at the fact that this girl just like is just a part of the cause and effect of this world, and the power players and the people that are just like over religious, cultist, dumb nonsense reasons, essentially, she's a sacrificial pawn in that. You can see where these two characters are like having a break in their philosophies again with each other. And the fact that Geto and Gojo, like, there's that moment where they're carrying the girl's like body, and they're surrounded by the applauding cult members who are like happy that she's dead. And Gojo is like, yo, I don't know about you, but I feel indifferent right now. We can just wipe all these motherfuckers out. They deserve to go. And Geto's like, no, right? We need to hold ourselves to a higher ideal. That's not the way. But I understand, but we're not going to do that. And Gojo's like, fuck that, whatever, And it's interesting because in a lot of cases, you have the situation of like, here's like protagonist-kun and like really strong girl best buddy, and then evil mascara snake friend, who's like,
I love evil mascara snake friend,
and you're like, we're just three friends for life. Like nothing will ever go wrong. And
isn't that right, evil mascara snake friend? Yes.
Slytherin.
Oh, I love murder so much. What was that, snake-kun?
Nothing. Friendship is nice.
If only I could acquire more power. Oh, snake-kun, you're always saying that.
So, evil mascara snake-kun is often the one that is, you're like...
I don't know, Woolie. I feel like this infinite mascara snake-kun has some legs. I think we should push snake-kun more. I think we need to get snake-kun on some t-shirts. Can we get some snake-kun fan art, please?
Snake mascara Sama, is hanging out with the friends, and like everyone's like, oh, he loves the dark, him, but he's a good sport. We all have fun,
just only something could purge this world. Oh, snake-kun, you always say the wackiest things.
If only we could all stay like this forever.
I like you too, snake-kun.
I mean, you're like, someone's got to keep an eye on that motherfucker, So all that to say that here, Gojo is honest about his feelings, and Geto has a higher ideal that he's holding himself to, so that when that breaks, he has further to fall. And you just get that moment of him rescuing those girls, seeing the farm, seeing all these people, and like, yeah, he snaps. And I really appreciate when stories do this thing. You know, your little Ava kind of like, let's linger on the moment. He's in the shower, just thinking about it, you know? And like the outside sorcerer girl, I forgot her name, but she shows up and kind of goes like, hey, I don't hang around with the others because I'm trying to figure out how to fix this world. And, you know, there's generally two ways to go about it. We can get rid of cursed energy, or we can get rid of people who don't use cursed energy. But who the fuck would do that, right? That's insane. So let's, you know, I'm trying to figure out that first one. And Geto's like, uh-huh. You know, so yeah, you get that long shower moment of like, okay, you know, and that establishes what happened in the movie, where you're like, and this is where the paths split from each other. I get it. And it's just, it's interesting to see the more noble, quote unquote, moral character be the one that falls, and the one that's like, yo, we can kill all these people is more honest. You know?
Yeah, it works, and I think it makes them feel real. Woolie, I gotta know, how much further did you go?
You are my special. Walking in slow motion,
Woolie,
as the fucking intro to the Shibuya incident starts. John, I know you said one day we'll come back and we'll discuss what's happening in season 2. Motherfucker, I am not stopping.
Have you watched season 2?
I have watched all of it. John, I have watched.
It hasn't been long since you watched like 50 episodes in like 3 weeks.
I have watched all of Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay, Woolie, I think I know what we need to do here.
I think so as well. And, you know, it's always been about taking that recommendation to the next level. And you bet your ass with this type of thing, I got pulled as far as I could possibly go.
I mean, I'm fucking delighted. I am so happy that you loved it that much. That is insane. Well, I think, like, okay, if we're going to do the Shibuya incident, I think I need to do a little research, and I think we need to give this the room it needs.
You asked me to watch the first season, and so that's what I'm giving you, ultimately, my take on here. But the Shibuya incident is another level entirely, and I have so much to say about that. Like, I have so much to say that we will have to wait till next episode, because we have been going longer than we possibly can handle right now.
You are not suggesting that the next episode of Versus Wolves will be a 3-parter. Your recommendation versus my recommendation
versus the
motherfucking Shibuya incident. This friendship here is the greatest thing of all time. I hope Infinite Mascara Snake Kun makes a return.
The 3-way battle next episode.
Our first ever triple threat. We're not doing this every time, folks, but this is a special one. Holy fucking shit, Woolie. I am so happy you like Jujutsu Kaisen so much.
When you said you're like, okay, really? We're thinking about this, but let's start here. I'm like, motherfucker, you know who I am. You know how this goes. You want to hold me back?
I'm seeing a pattern on this podcast.
Oh, damn.
Woolie, dude, let's take it to the pantheon of greatness.
We need to do that. And we're gonna judge it based on that first season alone, because
this is Jujutsu Kaisen season 1. Oh, I know, dude. I know. I don't know how high we're gonna rank Shibuya incidents. It's going to be fucking high.
I'm just gonna sprinkle this. The intro, that intro alone is one of the sickest things it's so good. The slow walk and the mood of the it's so good. Like when it started, I fucking popped. I popped off. So we're gonna get there. But Pantheon of Greatness. JJK. JK, I watched it all. Jujutsu Kaisen is 100% better than Silent Hill Ascension.
I mean,
Omicron, missing an FGC tourney. Cyber 6 and Police Knots are fun rides, but no.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine. I think that I enjoyed the first season of this shonen anime as something I was like calling out and trying to predict ultimately, and a little bit of time after, watching too many of these things, your brain gets fucking like, I don't know, whatever, irony pilled or so. But
okay, here's the thing, like I think the first 12-ish episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen has some good stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's shonen anime, the shonen anime.
Yeah, it is. And I think there's a little bit of just it's a little bit of that, like, I like the South Park syndrome almost. Is just like, okay, you're a kid, you think this is funny. You're a teenager, you're like, oh, fuck this stupid shit, it's dumb. And then you're an adult, you're like, no, wait, that's funny again.
No, wait, yeah, they got it.
So I'm like, I think I'm like, okay, getting past the era of Naruto poisoning me a little bit and just watching this and being like, man, that's just, what's gonna happen, but is it cool? And it's like, fuck yeah, it's cool. Boogie woogie. So this is gonna boogie woogie its way right past Fear and Hunger.
Okay, fair enough.
And that hits Hunter x. And now we have a very interesting challenge, and I will say this. Hunter x Hunter is based on everything up to the
Heaven's Arena arc.
The Heaven's Arena arc. Yeah.
Well, up to York New City, including Heaven's Arena.
Yes. Okay. Up to the start of York New City.
Yeah.
And I will say this. It might just be because of time. It might just be because of stepping on the shoulders of giants. But if Hunter x Hunter is a giant and its shoulders were stepped on to get to where we got to, I'm going to say that I think I enjoyed JJK.
I think JJK might be a little more your vibe than Hunter x Hunter.
The thing is that where Hunter x Hunter, the beginning, at the very least, is, we're judging beginning versus beginning, And I feel like I thought what was going on there, while I was kind of calling out some of it and stuff, I enjoyed that ride just a bit more. Just a bit more. But
wait. Oh, sorry. Go on.
But this is all, like, I'm trying to retroactively be like, not take my season 2 opinions into account here. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I think I'm going to place season 1 plus the movie, I guess, because that's in there and stuff, just above Hunter x Hunter. And
I think that's fair. I feel your excitement for this show, and yeah, I think that's reasonable.
I think that's where I liked it. And I think as well that, like, Vinland Saga season 1, just on the strength of its not source material, but history, and it takes things on in a way that I appreciate the originality of a lot of what's going on in Vinland Saga, the historic element of it, and how it kind of approaches things much more unpredictably compared to JJK. And so that's where that kind of sits. I could put yeah.
So if you're thinking about putting JJK ahead of Vinland Saga Season 1, I'm probably going to disagree with that.
No. That's not what I'm thinking about. Hunter x Hunter versus that. I'm thinking about where those two go. I do have immense respect for doing it first. You know? What does time mean when we're weighing these two nonsense metrics against each other that mean absolutely nothing?
Okay. Can I give you my take on this? I think that maybe Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 is maybe a little more consistent than the first arc, than like Hunter x Hunter up to York New City. But I do think the high points in Hunter x Hunter are higher. I don't think anything from Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 matches Hisoka versus Gon.
Okay. I think I disagree with that. I think Todo and Itadori versus Hanami was much more like I was popping off.
Okay. What about the badge pass?
Yeah, that's strong as fuck. That is strong as fuck.
Like I think Todo and Itadori versus Plant Thing is a better action scene.
I'm thinking of the choreography and the camera and the movement and the fucking.
But in terms of like a moment of narrative impact, Woolie, my feeling is that for you, Jujutsu Kaisen beats Hunter x Hunter, and I'm not going to stand in the way of that. I feel your passion. I'm delighted about it. I think this is the result for you.
Okay. But you are correct in that, like, I am coming way more shallow into the equation, you know.
Hunter x Hunter has yet to let out its big guns, and we're going to get there, and we can revisit this conversation then.
Okay.
Yeah. But
revisits
it's interesting,
are happening.
right? It's interesting because I think I wrote a little bit about this on my Patreon blog before, but there's like a kind of shonen arc I like called the Chaos blog, or the Chaos arc. And it's where it's not good guys versus bad guys, it's multiple factions crashing together. The Shibuya incident is a Chaos arc. The next Hunter x Hunter arc is a Chaos arc. York New City is a Chaos arc. The mother of Chaos arcs is the Chimera Ant arc.
Okay.
And I say that, you know what? Discussions for another day. Oh. Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 is our new number 7. Man, the middle part of that list is getting thick.
The hierarchy of power is changing.
It's been a monumental episode of Versus Wolves.
It has been, and
it's sure we have a new number 1. We have this new co-host who I don't think's gonna do anything evil ever. Isn't that right, Snake Kun? Yes.
Versus Wolves.
If only this podcast had but one host. Oh, Snake Kun, what does that even mean? And with that, Woolie, I think we gotta enter Recommend or Die!
It's been a great ride. We gotta cap this baby off, you know.
So on top of the Shibuya incident, which we will cover in the next episode of Versus Wolves, Woolie, would you care to make your recommendation?
I sure would. You know, we have really seen some twists and turns, and some give and some takes, some shoves, some pushes, and some pulls, and so I am very excited about where things are going, and I love how much you loved boxing and how that has taken hold. That's awesome. There are always revelations, and last time we had some revelations as well. The revelations we had were about how we are blood brothers, John.
That is true.
Right?
That is true.
There are connections here. We are from the Zenin clan.
Look at what they did to us, Woolie.
Hey, is your name still Fushiguro? Yeah? Good. All right. So, with that, I think that you should become more acquainted with your newfound brotherhood here, the brothership that we are sharing. And I think there's a couple ways to do that. Earlier, when we were talking about boxing...
I have no idea where we're going. Holy shit.
Earlier, when we were talking about boxing, I talked about how you can equate getting the basics not dissimilar to tasting some salts and some sugar and some sour and getting to see what those flavors are kind of like. Well, funny note about that is I think one of the keys to sharing experiences with people, and especially cultural things, is to try out some of the cuisine of the culture. So this is a wild, weird, left field one, but in the spirit of the friendship arc, John, I want you to go to a Caribbean, West Indian restaurant. I want you to try out a couple of West Indian dishes, the food that I grew up eating, and I want to talk to you about that kind of food and others on the next episode.
Okay.
I have done a little bit of looking around to see what's going on, and I have identified at least 2 places in Dublin that should be able to serve up.
I will visit both those places.
To serve up, I want you to get a plate of oxtail. I want you to taste some jerk chicken. I want you to have a roti, if possible. I'd like you to try a patty. And if you can get your hands on some ginger beer or sorrel, aka hibiscus juice, it would be awesome. So I want you to just have a couple nights out. Like if you can, grab Michelle.
So what if I send you these menus and you can pick what I get?
Okay. But this might be more than one night, That's
okay. Hey, I'll eat food. Yeah. I love food.
I would like you to go try out some West Indian Caribbean dishes, and I'd like you to have a night out with the wife and take a couple of them perhaps and try out some of what's going on.
I only have one wife, Woolie.
Yes.
I just have a lot of female friends. It's a common misconception, and I want it to end here. Okay,
John, I'm assuming you've never really tried out Caribbean food.
Not a whole lot, no.
Yeah, I feel a little bit safe on that one. I assumed. I proceeded without checking. So that's what it is. And I looked around. I got 2 places I think that should hook you up, but they're depending on how things go. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about the culture.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. I'm enjoying this friendship era. And
how does a plate of jerk chicken and some curry goat compare to the Shibuya incident?
That'll be a logical conversation. Okay. So I think this friendship era is going really well. I'm personally, I feel I'm not scared of the recommend or die. I feel safe. I feel good. And I think I was a little nervous last week when you recommended me the boxing. I didn't let it show at the time, but I had some mixed feelings about that. And I think there's an element of what's wrong, Woolie?
I'm just listening. I'm locking in.
You look like you're kind of bracing.
I'm locking in. For friendship.
I think this is an element, for friendship. Lock in for friendship. That's the new slogan of the show. It's not reach heaven through violence. It's lock in.
Lock in for friendship.
Lock in for friendship. I love it. Sometimes you got to eat your vegetables, right?
Depends on if they're mixed into the roti. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're going to recommend each other things that maybe the other person thinks they don't want, but maybe they just don't know. What's wrong, Woolie? Your face scrunched up there.
I have grown to love vegetables recently, actually.
That's good.
They make you healthy. They make you big and strong.
Yeah. You know what doesn't make you big and strong? Cherry pie. Which is a shame, because I know a place that serves a real good cherry pie, Woolie. It's called the Double R Diner. You, any idea where the Double R Diner is, Woolie?
The Double R Diner.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere near the RRR, I assume. No. Okay.
The Double R Diner is located in a little town called Twin Peaks.
Oh my God, it's happening.
Oh, it's happening, buddy. Look, your assignment is simple. Twin Peaks for season 1. That's, I think, 6 or 7 episodes. Not too long, pretty manageable. All I'm going to say, Woolie, is that Twin Peaks exists around a central mystery. I'm sure you know the one. Do not get swept up in the mystery. Just go hang out in that town.
I have felt the aura exuding off of David Lynch before, so I know what to set my expectations to. People have been wanting me to get into Twin Peaks for years. I can't believe it's happening.
It's happening.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Okay. Well, cherry pie.
And jerk chicken.
Jerk chicken and the Shibuya incident. Next time.
Let's see where this friendship era goes next on Versus Wolves.